Chapter 1023. Han Fei glanced at Chu Sun. Your strength seems to have grown a lot. The corner of Chu Sun's mouth twitched. He didn't want to talk to Han Fei. In the sea-quelling painting, he was just a nobody. It wasn't easy for him to make some progress, but he was ridiculed. Chu Sun snorted. Han Fei, I'm here to ask the acting sect leader, is the Thug Academy willing to return? Before Han Fei spoke, he saw Gong Yuehan also walk over. Wait a minute before answering. The Thug Academy has been quiet for several months since it came to the Thousand-Star City. But today, it may be different. Han Fei narrowed his eyes and said, Oh? What's the difference? Han Fei looked at the end of the sword practice field. The 7 major sects all seemed to have strong masters sitting there. The rest of the disciples were all standing in the lower seats. At this moment, the people of the 7 major sects were all looking at him. Because next to the 7 seats, there was still an empty seat. Luo Xiaobai said, Do you want to sit? Han Fei was silent and stood still. He didn't believe that the Heavenly Sword sect didn't say anything. On the right side, near the front, there were some people he didn't know at all sitting in the seats. However, from those people, Han Fei found Chu Jian, whom he had met once in the Thousand-Star Proving Ground, and Li Xian, whom he had just met. And Mo Fian and the Li brothers had no place to sit. This meant that in the Thousand-Star City, heavenly talents like Mo Fian had fallen from the first echelon of heavenly talents. Or rather, they had never been. However, in remote places, they could only act as a facade for heavenly talents. Han Fei said, Follow me. Han Fei went all the way to the upper left side, where the masters of the 7 major sects were. At this moment, the scene of thousands of people was slightly quiet. Because many people found that the eyes of those big clans and sects were on Han Fei and the others. Han Fei ignored those gazes and went straight to the master of the Heavenly Sword sect. This person was only a peak-level law enforcer, not Mu Tianfang himself. It made sense to think about it. Why would those big shots sit in this place to welcome guests in person? Before the business started, they probably wouldn't see anyone. Han Fei looked at the Heavenly Sword sect powerhouse and asked, What do you mean? The powerhouse from the Heavenly Sword sect heaved a long sigh. Han Fei, there are 2 possibilities today. If you are alone, you can walk into the inner gate of the Heavenly Sword sect and find Tang Gu. The Heavenly Sword sect is completely open to you, and no one will stop you. But if you represent the Thug Academy, although we have that relationship, we have to treat you in another way. Oh. I'm all ears. The man said, returning to the sect system, the 7 great sects will immediately become 8 great sections. Many of the Thug Academy's problems can be solved. Han Fei smiled faintly. What are the conditions? The expert from Sea Cloud Tower suddenly said, The reason why the 7 great sects are able to unite as one is that they share a portion of their resources. This was the tacit understanding of maintaining a united front. The Thug Academy must have left behind a large number of star beads, right? We won't snatch those star beads from you. However, we also have the right to see it. The man from the Grand Void Academy said, Similarly, the Thug Academy can also see all the star beads of our 7 sections. The man from the Heavenly Sword sect said solemnly, Han Fei, I know that you should be in charge of the Thousand-Star City now. In fact, this is not a bad thing. The Thug Academy will return, and you will definitely get more than we will. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. Do you want our star beads so much? However, this was impossible. Putting everything else aside, Xiao Xi was still in his star beads secret realm. These star beads would never be handed over. Han Fei smiled and said, Except for relic star beads, yes. The man from the Origin Returning Peak said, That's impossible. The reason why we agreed to let the Thug Academy return is to see the ruins. Otherwise, there are many ordinary secret realms in our 7 sects, so it's meaningless. Han Fei, the Thug Academy will share the ruins, and so will we. This is the only way to reveal the secrets of the ancient times. Han Fei curled his lips and said with a smile, I don't think so. Don't the 3 holy lands have secrets? Have you been to the central holy city? The powerhouse from the Death Door sect said, if we find the ancient secrets from the 3 holy lands or have been to the central holy city, do we still need the Thug Academy? Han Fei said, do you know how many ruins I have? The man from the Heavenly Sword sect said, you may not know. In the universe, once you get a relic star bead, it will shake the universe. The Thug Academy should have 18 ruins. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Is there such a thing? If he brought Xiaozi back and put her in Forge the Universe, it was not impossible for her to return to the 7 major sections. After all, when Old Bai gave him the star beads, he must have been prepared. However, Han Fei still had a few law enforcer secret realms in his hands that couldn't be explored. Han Fei immediately said, if you want the star beads of the Thug Academy, yes. But you have to wait until we have explored the law enforcer level star beads secret realms. Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei, and Han Fei gave her a reassuring look. The powerhouses frowned, and the one from the Origin Returning Peak said, to be honest, if you want to explore the law enforcer level ruins, you have to at least become a senior law enforcer. In fact, it's best if you become a peak level law enforcer. If you agree now, we, the 7 major sects, can send people to explore with you. The one from the Jade Fairy Palace nodded. Yes, you should have seen some ruins and know how difficult it is. Han Fei said, sorry, this is my bottom line. Or wait until we finish exploring. Ha ha ha. As soon as Han Fei finished speaking, he heard someone from the big families laughing. Did you see that? The Thug Academy has a guilty conscience. They have secrets in their hands and don't want to hand them over. Ha, Han Fei, when will you finish exploring the law enforcer level ruins? I think you are buying time for yourself, right? Han Fei looked over. It was the elder of the Yang Diyu family. Only this family's brains were abnormal. Shouting and shouting, rash and impetuous. A woman said sarcastically, since the Thug Academy doesn't want to return to the 8 major sects, then the 7 major sects shouldn't get involved in the conflict between us and the Thug Academy, right? In Han Fei's heart, a voice sounded, they just want to force the Thug Academy to completely cut ties with the 7 major sections. Now, once you give a positive answer, there will be endless trouble in the future. Han Fei didn't know who sent him a voice transmission. Looking around, Han Fei didn't see many people he knew. Han Fei didn't care. It was impossible for him to hand over the star beads. How could he let others see the ruins that he hadn't even seen? Was this a joke? Who would send someone to go to the law enforcer secret realm with him and the others? What if he died in there? Who would take the blame? Which family would old Han take revenge on? Someone threatened, the Luo family and the Jiuyin family are clearly going to stand on the Thug Academy's side? Han Fei narrowed his eyes and looked at the person who spoke. Which family is he from? Suddenly, Han Fei stopped sending the voice transmission and pointed at the person, cursing, what's wrong? Your family is very unhappy, isn't it? Do you want to destroy the Thug Academy? Why don't you give it a try? Suddenly, many people were surprised. Why did Han Fei start cursing? Someone took a breath. Damn, he's pointing at the Sun family and cursing. Who is this guy? Someone laughed. Who? The Thug Academy. The one that was destroyed. Someone shook his head. What a hothead. Why is he cursing the Sun family in front of so many people? Is this guy crazy? The middle-aged man from the Sun family's face turned cold. Han Fei, since the Thug Academy is back, you have to have a legitimate reason. You can have someone to back you up, but what about the Thug Academy? Since you have chosen to start a new school, you can choose to return to the 8 major academies. Or, hand over the star beads. Han Fei sneered. What if I don't? The Sun family expert said, it's fine if you don't hand it over. Then don't become a law enforcer as long as you stay in the 1,000-star city. Han Fei laughed. What does it have to do with you whether I become a law enforcer or not? What, do you think that after I become a law enforcer, your family's descendants will be able to defeat me? Why don't you let your people come out and have a try now? Bam! The man slapped the table. Han Fei, do you think you are the only one in the Thug Academy? Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Are you threatening me? Han Fei's heart did a flip. Do old Bai and old Jiang really have trump cards? The other party threatened him so blatantly. If they really wanted to fight in the future, should he fight or not? He knew that in the eyes of these people, he had already been separated from the Thug Academy. If old Han didn't come out, maybe he would be fine, but what about Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang? What about Yi Shiyan and the other four? Clang! Suddenly, a figure fell from the sky, and the big halberd in his hand hit the ground, bursting out the sound of metal. Tang Gu appeared and glanced at the big families. What? You big clans want to cause trouble on my wedding day? Nonsense, why are you here? The Heavenly Sword sect expert scolded and then said via voice transmission, this matter is not that simple. They just happened to take advantage of your wedding day. Don't make trouble. Go back. Han Fei frowned. Why are you here? Tang Gu glanced at Han Fei. How can I not be here? Tang Gu shouted, Han Fei is my brother. It's fine that he messed up my wedding. But now you want to force my brother? You are too presumptuous. Someone laughed. Ha! Tang Gu, you know, you are from the Heavenly Sword sect. Are these people from the Thug Academy all your brothers and sisters? Someone laughed and said, Tang Gu, you have to be clear about your relationship. Why are you here on this big day? A big family expert was disdainful. What? A junior can represent the Heavenly Sword sect now. Is there no one else in the Heavenly Sword sect? Gu, what are you doing? Mu Tianfang appeared, put a hand on Tang Ji's shoulder, and said via voice transmission, there are some problems that you can't solve. Han Fei will be fine. However, the Thug Academy refuses to return, which is the reason why the big families are making trouble. Chapter 1024. Tang Gu asked, Master, am I just going to watch these people bully Han Fei and the others? Mu Tianfang said leisurely, bully? When did you see Han Fei being bullied? These people just want to see the trump card of the Thug Academy. If they have a trump card, no one will touch the Thug Academy. If they don't, that will be the problem. This proves that Han Fei and the others are just bluffing in the Thousand-Star City. Someone may attack them, but no matter what, Han Fei will be fine. Tang Gu frowned. But Master, what if, Mu Tianfang said, Gu, only the strong have the right to speak. You're not strong enough. If you want to attack the big families, you have to become strong first. Only with the protection of the Heavenly Sword sect can you have this opportunity. This is also the reason why your foster father urged you to marry Ling, Han Fei took a deep look at Tang Gu and immediately shouted, Tang Gu is not a member of the Thug Academy, so he naturally can't get involved. However, do you people really think that the Thug Academy is useless? Can you threaten anyone? Someone stood up and cupped his hands towards Mu Tianfang. Sect Master Mu, it's not that we want to make a scene, but there are some things that should be cleared up, someone nodded. Yes, the Thug Academy came back so easily. What do they think the Thousand-Star City is? Erlang of the Yang family said, Han Fei, don't bluff. You have your father's protection. Okay, you can do whatever you want. But the Thug Academy has nothing to do with your father, right? That's right, if you're really bluffing, hand over the Star Pearl ruins as soon as possible. Behind him, a powerhouse from the Sea Cloud Tower said, Han Fei, it's not too late to choose to return to the 8 major sects now. For a moment, Han Fei's head was buzzing. He didn't know whether to return or not, and he couldn't get Tang Gu involved either. He thought that after he and the others became law enforcers, these people would use normal means to attack the Thug Academy. But he was wrong. These people couldn't wait any longer, which was disgusting. Han Fei was also speechless. Old Bai didn't give him any trump card before he came here. Since he came up, he had indeed been pretending as if his trump card was unfathomable. Those who came to watch the ceremony from the ordinary families all gulped down a mouthful of saliva. The Thug Academy faced such suppression as soon as they arrived. Now that things had come to this, if he did not bring out his true trump card, he was afraid that he would not be able to pass this hurdle. Su Yang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He was more nervous than Han Fei. Now, the fate of the Su family was linked to the Thug Academy. If the Thug Academy's return was a bluff, the consequences could be imagined. A few peak-level hidden fishers couldn't make any waves. No matter how talented Han Fei was, could he beat an explorer as a peak-level hidden fisher? Everyone else who came to watch the ceremony fell silent. Many people had just learned that Han Fei and the others represented the Thug Academy. At this moment, these people were shocked. The Thug Academy was not afraid of death. Go to the Thousand-Star City. Back then, how did they get exterminated? Could it be that they wanted to repeat the same mistakes? Han Fei narrowed his eyes, and a voice sounded in his heart, "This is the best opportunity. Consider it a gift from the Heavenly Sword sect and your father's alliance. Think about it. Bai Kongyi can't not give you any trump cards." Han Fei couldn't help glancing at Mu Tianfang. Is Mu Tianfang reminding me? But why is Mu Tianfang so sure that this is the best opportunity? Do you think I don't know if you have any trump cards? Since Mu Tianfang invited the Thug Academy, it was based on the premise that the Thug Academy could hold the fort. But I don't have anything to hold the fort at all. The biggest thing I can do is to be a law enforcer. Any one of the 5 legends can shake a group of law enforcers. However, this is obviously not enough. Since the last time he came out of the underground city, Han Fei knew that there were many explorers in the Thousand-Star City. Even the declining Su family had 2 explorers. It was estimated that once the strong masters of the Thousand-Star City came out, the 10,000 Demon Valley would be crushed to the ground in minutes. As for the Sea Demon Royal City, Han Fei didn't think that the Royal City could have so many explorers and venerables. Of course, this was just Han Fei's imagination. After all, the Sea Demons had fought with the human race for so long, which meant that they had a strong foundation. At this time, someone came over. Han Fei took a look and his pupils constricted slightly. Chu Nanfeng. Chu Jian got up and cupped his hands. "Uncle." Han Fei frowned. Chu Nanfeng, peak-level explorer. Han Fei was relatively unfamiliar with the Chu sect. But he knew that the Chu sect's rise was started by Xiao Xi. The person who came at this moment was Chu Nanfeng, who was beaten by old Han last time. Is he going to show up in person? Chu Nanfeng smiled and said, "Sect Master Mu, the Chu sect has sent a congratulatory gift. I found an ancient sword manual, I hope you will kindly accept it." Mu Tianfeng smiled slightly. "Thank you, Mr. Nanfeng." A jade slip flew to Mu Tianfeng, and Chu Nanfeng looked at Han Fei with a smile. "If it weren't for your father, you wouldn't have lived until now." Han Fei sneered. "If the Chu sect explorers don't come out, I will kill them one by one. Do you believe that I can kill you until your scalp goes numb?" Chu Nanfeng smiled and said, "Oh. Did you say that?" Han Fei grinned. "Yes, I did. I don't mind your Chu sect sending people to die. I'll leave my words here, do you accept or not?" Chu Nanfeng looked at Mu Tianfeng. "Sect Master Mu, if Han Fei represents himself, it would be fine. But as you can see, he is obviously on the side of the Thug Academy. If the Chu sect doesn't accept this challenge, won't it seem that there is no one in the Chu sect?" Luo Xiaobai immediately said, "Han Fei, be careful. Since this person dares to accept this challenge, don't act rashly." Han Fei really wanted to roll his eyes. "I don't want to fight. But the premise is that old Bai gives me a trump card first. He is about to flip the table to see his cards. How can I not accept it? If I don't accept it, how can I continue?" Mu Tianfang said to Han Fei via voice transmission, Han Fei, don't be impulsive. This time, it was the best opportunity. All the big shots in the Thousand-Star City are here. If they don't show their cards now, it will be difficult to maintain this delicate balance. No matter how strong your father is, he is not a member of the Thug Academy and can't protect so many people. If others die, will your father really take action? Han Fei gritted his teeth. The point is that I don't have any cards. Han Fei knew that if old Han had been plotting for decades just to make himself stronger, he probably wouldn't take action as long as others didn't involve him. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. Senior Mu, can I borrow the venue of the Heavenly Sword Sect? Wow! The audience was in an uproar. This time, it was too big. Han Fei said that if the explorers didn't come, he would kill them one by one. However, would the big families care about their pride? Everyone would only see who would win in the end. Since the Chu sect accepted the challenge, it meant that they had enough confidence to face Han Fei. In the sea-quelling painting, everyone knew the news of the 5 legends. However, those who entered the painting didn't know the strength of the 5 legends. They didn't have a standard for judging. At this moment, the Chu sect came to test the water. Han Fei narrowed his eyes and looked at Chu Nanfeng. Do you want to fight? Come on. Today is my brother's wedding day, so there shouldn't be any blood spilled. But cultivators like us don't care about such a trivial matter. Han Fei looked at Tang Gu. Do you mind? Tang Gu frowned and said to him via voice transmission, Han Fei, don't do it. Han Fei smiled and said, they're about to step on my face. If I don't, I won't be able to win. Let's fight. Han Fei's eyes turned cold and he looked at Chu Nanfeng. My father can beat you to a pulp. Wait a minute. One day, I will beat you to a pulp too. Chu Nanfeng chuckled. You're good at talking. Since you choose to fight, I will satisfy you. But what do you have to say about winning or losing? Han Fei thought to himself, here comes the highlight. Han Fei sneered. What do you have to say? Chu Nanfeng said, if the Chu sect wins, the star bead of the Thug Academy will belong to the Chu sect. Han Fei asked, what if you lose? Chu Nanfeng smiled and said, whatever you want. Han Fei said, if you want all the star beads of the Thug Academy, you have to stop all the big clans here from attacking the Thug Academy for 10 years. You can't even pick a fight with us. Ridiculous. Immediately, someone shouted, what does it have to do with us? Chu Nanfeng said, you're too greedy. Han Fei sneered. You sound like you don't have a big appetite. Chu Nanfeng asked, then how do you want to fight? Han Fei grinned and said, no problem. If I lose a game, you will give me a star bead. If I win a game, the Chu sect will not make trouble for me for 10 years. How about that? Chu Nanfeng sneered. 3 months. Han Fei said disdainfully, is this all you've got? You're so petty. Do you deserve it? It's you who asked to fight me. Chu Nanfeng narrowed his eyes and said, half a year at most. For the first time, Han Fei found that if he didn't want others to make trouble for him, he had to win by fighting. With so many big shots here, the Chu sect wouldn't go back on their word. Except for the Chu sect and the Chao family, the other big clans didn't have the capital to challenge him. Han Fei said, okay. Half a year it is. If I fight 20 of you, it will be 10 years. Puff. Someone was speechless. Is he crazy? Fight 20 of them? The other party dared to come up and fight. Did they really think that they would let those weaklings come over? Chu Nanfeng smiled contemptuously. If you can win. After that, Chu Nanfeng shouted, Quangren, come here. Suddenly, there was a burst of exclamations. Someone said in shock, what? Chu Quangren came out of the God's Memorial Tower. Someone was surprised. This lunatic is here to fight? Someone was shocked. This is too much. Han Fei is only a peak-level hidden fisher. How can Chu Kuangren defeat him with 2 slaps? Zhou Yinling's face suddenly changed, and she said via voice transmission, Han Fei, Chu Kuangren is a famous lunatic. But he is also a genius. It is said that he has an ancient bloodline. Han Fei said, I, Han Fei, have seen too many geniuses in my life. There are people who can impress me, but unfortunately, he is not in the 1,000-star city. Chapter 1025. A pillar of fire fell from the sky, and the scorching sun essence directly burned the entire mountain, turning the vegetation and debris into flying ashes in an instant. Because the scorching sun essence was too domineering, Mu Tianfang immediately shouted, Everyone, step back 30 miles. Chu Nanfeng's eyes changed and he was a little shocked. Is Han Fei crazy? With this kind of terrifying scorching sun essence, 1 or 2 seconds might be enough. But what about 5 or 10 seconds? What about after 10 seconds? The eyes of all the hidden fishers were so pierced that they burst into tears. Luo Xiaobai directly sealed the eyes of Su Daiji and the others. Boom! In the scorching sun essence, Han Fei was like a man on fire, going crazy. The terrifying power exploded into waves of fire, one wave after another, hitting the sword essence seal. The entire seal was 20 miles in radius and couldn't be seen directly. Boom, boom, boom. Clang, clang, clang. No one knew what Han Fei was thinking at this moment. You say I don't have energy? Okay, then I'll call some energy down. Let's see who destroys the other first. The roars kept going. With a bang, Chu Kuangren's back hit the sword essence seal, causing the entire seal to shake violently. Boom! Han Fei's figure hit the seal. With a cracking sound, a crack appeared on the sword essence seal. Mu Tianfang's face changed slightly. Not good. Before Mu Tianfang could make a move, a big hand waved in the air and the sword essence seal returned to normal. Seeing this scene, Mu Tianfang bowed slightly to the big hand. The Venerable had taken action. Outside, all the visitors were visibly moved. Su Yang looked at the frantically flashing figures in the scorching sun essence, the terrifying knife marks tearing the void, the figures colliding and the bloody fist marks, and his heart was in his throat. This is crazy. Su Yang was sure that if Han Fei fought him in this state, he would have no chance of winning at all. He would probably be killed in less than 3 seconds. However, the 2 freaks inside were still fighting. Most of the time, they were fighting hand to hand. Because the speed was too fast, there were almost 100 moves in every second, and the roars never stopped. The sound of fists hitting flesh and bones breaking was enough to make everyone's scalp go numb. After only 8 breaths of time, there was a violent gasp in the sword origin formation. A mountain peak collapsed, burying both of them in a pile of rubble. At this moment, the blazing mountain was suddenly extinguished. The remaining energy surged like a tide and drilled into the gravel. The 1,000-meter-tall mountain peak was now only about 600 meters tall. He did not know where Han Fei and Chu Kuangren were. Bang! All of a sudden, rubble flew everywhere. Chu Kuangren was bent over, his whole body covered in scorch marks. His hair was burnt off, and his body was covered in black. Nothing could be seen. A set of battle armor appeared on his body, and a series of crackling sounds could be heard as the charred flesh fell off. Chu Kuangren roared, "Come out!" Xiao! The knife light soared into the sky and the rocks exploded. Han Fei, wrapped in a green battle suit, flashed out of the pile of rocks. However, everyone could see that one of Han Fei's legs was twisted and his left shoulder drooped unnaturally. Han Fei stabbed the punishing saber into the ground and grabbed his left shoulder with his right hand. Crack, crack. Han Fei bent his right leg again. Crack, crack, crack. With the divine healing technique, the charred flesh on Han Fei's body began to fall apart. Outside the field, there was silence. Because of the Supremacy's protection, everyone returned to less than 20 kilometers away. Yi Shiyan and the others widened their eyes. Is this senior brother? Senior brother is only a peak-level hidden fisher. A mountain was destroyed by the two of them. Gucci gulped. She seemed to have just realized what it meant to join the Thug Academy. Then, she looked at Luo Xiaobai and the others and thought to herself, these senior brothers and senior sisters aren't weak either. Su Daiji was dumbfounded. She was so stunned that she didn't even know how to play the cube. Su Sanqian's heart stirred. What is a powerhouse? This is a powerhouse. A hidden fisher gave off the feeling of a peak-level law enforcer. Luo Xiaobai and the others heaved a sigh of relief. However, their hearts were still in their throats. The two people in the field were definitely not as relaxed as they looked. If the two of them were fine, they would definitely fight immediately instead of standing and resting. Chu Kuangren even allowed Han Fei to set his bones and cast the divine healing technique on him. Chu Kuangren didn't know if he had swallowed something. At this moment, his aura was recovering. He said coldly, the ancient ferocious beast was born bathed in blood. You've lost this battle. Han Fei's expression was cold, but it was unknown if he had heard the word lost. At this moment, he said, bullshit. Han Fei took 3 steps forward and stretched out one hand. The punishment saber landed in Han Fei's hand. Han Fei opened his mouth and spoke clearly, don't you just want me to become a law enforcer? I'll show you. Because the two were more than 10 kilometers apart, Han Fei walked forward step by step. You're very good. I thought that the law enforcement war body would be invincible and invincible. Wherever my fists hit, it would be my Dao. However, you dispelled this thought of mine. Do you know that I can master many techniques? I've been having a headache about what to choose. Damn it, what should I choose? Han Fei spat out a mouthful of blood and continued, now, I understand. Law enforcers want to strengthen themselves, so they have to be both offensive and defensive. I don't know what techniques there are in this world. Then do it according to me. If I say there are techniques in this world, then there are techniques. If I say this is a technique, then it is a technique. Behind Han Fei, a golden giant that no one had seen before suddenly appeared. The giant strode forward and followed Han Fei, glaring at him. But Han Fei chanted, Reincarnation of Buddha, West Sky Temple of Freedom, Path of Invincibility, Vajra suppresses demons. Clang! Like the ringing of a large bell, thunder rumbled above the sky. Han Fei created a technique that belonged to himself, a technique that only he understood, which seemed to be not tolerated in this world. However, this was not a tribulation. Therefore, no lightning fell. Otherwise, there would have been people who would have interfered. As the golden light on Han Fei's body became brighter and brighter, he had turned into a golden man. Outside, someone exclaimed, Law enforcer in battle. Isn't he afraid that his law enforcer will be broken? Someone was shocked. Crazy, he's all crazy. What law is he obsessed with? How can he attract such a mighty power? Mu Tianfang's eyes lit up. No wonder he is the son of the Venerable. His talent and strength are impressive. Su Yang was excited. He must win. If Han Fei wins, the Su family wins. Chu Nanfeng's face was ugly. Han Fei's strength was beyond his expectations. Although he knew there was something wrong with the punishing saber, no matter what, it belonged to Han Fei. In such a battle, as long as no one interfered, there was no cheating. And Han Fei could fight with Chu Kuangren as a peak-level hidden fisher. If his law enforcer was broken, wouldn't Chu Kuangren lose? Chu Nanfeng said, Kuangren, what are you waiting for? Chu Kuangren rushed out wildly, and the big sword flew for dozens of miles before it fell. Han Fei, who was moving forward step by step, waved his saber, and a crack appeared in the void. With a clang, the sword was knocked away. I didn't want to be a law enforcer here. Man proposes, God disposes. It's been broken. Since I became a law enforcer, who can stop me? Roar! Chu Kuangren was furious. He didn't expect Han Fei to be so strong. At this moment, a scarlet fist mark broke out, turning the gravel in the way into powder. Han Fei looked indifferent, stopped his feet, and stretched out one hand. As Han Fei stretched out his hand, the golden giant behind him also stretched out his hand. Clang, the sound reverberated. However, Han Fei did not take a step back. He let the fist wind crush the gravel behind him, let the ground sink, and he stood in the void. That terrifying fist mark was taken by him with one hand. Outside, someone was shocked. How is this possible? Even if he is a law enforcer, he can't be so strong, right? But the eyes of a strong cultivator from the Mountain Sea Pavilion widened. No, that's not purely his own strength. He is a law enforcer, and he is using the power of laws to fight against Chu Kuangren. Han Fei grinned. Law enforcer. Sure enough, the law is not the Tao, it's just a wisp of heaven's will. Ha! Qilin demonic fist. Chu Kuangren roared, and a strange creature appeared. The scarlet fist light turned black, and its demonic power was awe-inspiring. Han Fei closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, Han Fei's body had already flown 1,000 meters away. He burst out a fist mark that was as bright as the sun. Vajra demon suppression. Moo! A strange sound broke out, and in front of the golden fist mark, the dense demonic chi was crushed along the way. Han Fei's body began to surge. At this moment, the agility of wind had been increased by 5 times. In the face of Han Fei, who had become stronger, Chu Kuangren naturally would not accept defeat. So what if I'm a law enforcer? When have I, Chu Kuangren, ever been afraid of a battle? The two collided in an instant. Suddenly, the battle technique was activated again. At this moment, Han Fei's strength had increased to a higher level. Moreover, with the power of law enforcer, the two of them hammered and shook with the sound of drums. Around the two of them, the gravel was crushed into sand. This was a group of people without any fancy moves. It was a head-numbing hand-to-hand fight. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren did not come at a good time. He was powerful, really powerful. Han Fei's fusion state was destroyed, and Han Fei was forced to become a law enforcer. So, how could Han Fei let go of this hatred? At this moment, when Chu Kuangren bombarded Han Fei's body, it was as if he had hit a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. When Han Fei bombarded Chu Kuangren's body, blood burst, tendons broke, and bones were broken. Han Fei grinned coldly. Let me tell you a secret, this is called glaring Buddha. Boom! Boom! Chu Nanfeng shouted, you can stop now. All of a sudden, Han Fei erupted all his strength. Stop my ass. Go to hell. Bastard. Chu Nanfeng was about to make a move, but he saw a figure blocking dozens of miles away. Han Fei's punch directly penetrated Chu Kuangren's chest. Han Fei seemed to have grasped something and crushed it. Behind Chu Kuangren, the ground exploded, which was caused by the fist wind. At this moment, Chu Kuangren, one of the legends of the previous generation of the Thousand-Star City, died. Chapter 1026. A pillar of fire fell from the sky, and the scorching sun essence directly burned the entire mountain, turning the vegetation and debris into flying ashes in an instant. Because the scorching sun essence was too domineering, Mu Tianfang immediately shouted, everyone, step back 30 miles. Chu Nanfeng's eyes changed and he was a little shocked. Is Han Fei crazy? With this kind of terrifying scorching sun essence, 1 or 2 seconds might be enough. But what about 5 or 10 seconds? What about after 10 seconds? The eyes of all the hidden fissures were so pierced that they burst into tears. Luo Xiaobai directly sealed the eyes of Su Daiji and the others. Boom! In the scorching sun essence, Han Fei was like a man on fire, going crazy. The terrifying power exploded into waves of fire, one wave after another, hitting the sword essence seal. The entire seal was 20 miles in radius and couldn't be seen directly. Boom, boom, boom. Clang, clang, clang. No one knew what Han Fei was thinking at this moment. You say I don't have energy? Okay, then I'll call some energy down. Let's see who destroys the other first. The roars kept going. With a bang, Chu Kuangren's back hit the sword essence seal, causing the entire seal to shake violently. Boom! Han Fei's figure hit the seal. With a cracking sound, a crack appeared on the sword essence seal. Mu Tianfang's face changed slightly. Not good. Before Mu Tianfang could make a move, he saw a big hand waving in the air and the sword essence seal returned to normal. Seeing this scene, Mu Tianfang bowed slightly to the big hand. The Venerable had taken action. Outside, all the visitors were visibly moved. Su Yang looked at the frantically flashing figures in the scorching sun essence, the terrifying knife marks that tore the void, the figures colliding and the bloody fist marks, and his heart was in his throat. This is crazy. Su Yang was sure that if Han Fei fought him in this state, he would have no chance of winning. He would probably be killed in less than 3 seconds. However, the two freaks inside were still fighting. Most of the time, they were fighting hand to hand. Because the speed was too fast, almost every second, there were hundreds of attacks, and the roars never stopped. The sound of fists hitting flesh and bones breaking was enough to make everyone's scalp go numb. After only 8 breaths of time, there was a violent gasp in the Sword Origin formation. A mountain peak collapsed, burying both of them in a pile of rubble. At this moment, the blazing mountain was suddenly extinguished. The remaining energy surged like a tide and drilled into the gravel. The 1,000-meter-tall mountain peak was now only about 600 meters tall. He did not know where Han Fei and Chu Kuangren were. Bang! All of a sudden, rubble flew everywhere. Chu Kuangren was bent over, his whole body covered in scorch marks. His hair was burnt off, and his body was covered in black. Nothing could be seen. A set of battle armor appeared on his body, and a series of crackling sounds could be heard as the charred flesh fell off. Chu Kuangren roared, "Come out!" Xiao! The knife light soared into the sky and the rocks exploded. Han Fei, wrapped in a green battle suit, flashed out of the pile of rocks. However, everyone could see that one of Han Fei's legs was twisted and his left shoulder drooped unnaturally. Han Fei stabbed the punishing saber into the ground and grabbed his left shoulder with his right hand. Crack, crack. Han Fei bent his right leg again. Crack, crack, crack. With the divine healing technique, the charred flesh on Han Fei's body began to fall apart. Outside the field, there was silence. Because of the Supremacy's protection, everyone returned to less than 20 kilometers away. Yi Shiyan and the others widened their eyes. Is this senior brother? Senior brother is only a peak-level hidden fissure. A mountain was destroyed by the two of them. Guqi gulped. She seemed to have just realized what it meant to join the Thug Academy. Then, she looked at Luo Xiaobai and the others and thought to herself, these senior brothers and senior sisters aren't weak either. Su Daiji was dumbfounded. She was so stunned that she didn't even know how to play the cube. Su Sanqian's heart stirred. What is a powerhouse? This is a powerhouse. A hidden fissure gave off the feeling of a peak-level law enforcer. Luo Xiaobai and the others heaved a sigh of relief. However, their hearts were still in their throats. The two people in the field were definitely not as relaxed as they looked. If the two of them were fine, they would definitely fight immediately instead of standing and resting. Chu Kuangren even allowed Han Fei to set his bones and cast the divine healing technique on him. Chu Kuangren didn't know if he had swallowed something. At this moment, his aura was recovering. He said coldly, the ancient ferocious beast was born bathed in blood. You've lost this battle. Han Fei's expression was cold, but it was unknown if he had heard the word lost. At this moment, he said, bullshit. Han Fei took 3 steps forward and stretched out one hand. The punishment saber landed in Han Fei's hand. Han Fei opened his mouth and spoke clearly, don't you just want me to become a law enforcer? I'll break it for you. Because the two were more than 10 kilometers apart, Han Fei walked forward step by step. You're very good. I thought that the law enforcement war body would be invincible and invincible. Wherever my fists hit, it would be my Tao. However, you dispelled this thought of mine. Do you know that I can master many techniques? I've been having a headache about what to choose. Damn it, what should I choose? Han Fei spat out a mouthful of blood and continued, now, I understand. Law enforcers want to strengthen themselves, so they have to be both offensive and defensive. I don't know what techniques there are in this world. Then do it according to me. If I say there are techniques in this world, then there are techniques. If I say this is a technique, then it is a technique. Behind Han Fei, a golden giant that no one had seen before suddenly appeared. The giant strode forward and followed Han Fei, glaring at him. But Han Fei chanted, Reincarnation of Buddha, West Sky Temple of Freedom, Path of Invincibility, Vajra suppresses demons. Clang! Like the ringing of a large bell, thunder rumbled above the sky. Han Fei created a technique that belonged to himself, a technique that only he understood, which seemed to be not tolerated in this world. However, this was not a tribulation. Therefore, no lightning fell. Otherwise, there would have been people who would have interfered. As the golden light on Han Fei's body became brighter and brighter, he had turned into a golden man. Outside, someone exclaimed, Law enforcer in battle. Isn't he afraid that his law enforcer will be broken? Someone was shocked. Crazy, he's all crazy. What kind of technique is he practicing? How can he attract the mighty power of heaven? Mu Tianfang's eyes lit up. No wonder he is the son of the Venerable. His talent and strength are impressive. Su Yang was excited. He must win. If Han Fei wins, the Su family wins. Chu Nanfeng's face was ugly. Han Fei's strength was beyond his expectations. Although he knew there was something wrong with the punishing saber, no matter what, it belonged to Han Fei. In such a battle, as long as no one interfered, there was no cheating. And Han Fei could fight with Chu Kuangren as a peak-level hidden fisher. If his law enforcer was broken, wouldn't Chu Kuangren lose? Chu Nanfeng said, Kuangren, what are you waiting for? Chu Kuangren rushed out wildly, and the big sword flew for dozens of miles before it fell. Han Fei, who was moving forward step by step, waved his saber, and a crack appeared in the void. With a clang, the sword was knocked away. I didn't want to be a law enforcer here. Man proposes, God disposes. It's been broken. Since I became a law enforcer, who can stop me? Roar! Chu Kuangren was furious. He didn't expect Han Fei to be so strong. At this moment, a scarlet fist mark broke out, turning the gravel in the way into powder. Han Fei looked indifferent, stopped his feet, and stretched out one hand. As Han Fei stretched out his hand, the golden giant behind him also stretched out his hand. Clang, the sound reverberated. However, Han Fei did not take a step back. He let the fist wind crush the gravel behind him, let the ground sink, and he stood in the void. That terrifying fist mark was taken by him with one hand. Outside, someone was shocked. How is this possible? Even if he is a law enforcer, he can't be so strong, right? But the eyes of a strong cultivator from the Mountain Sea Pavilion widened. No, that's not purely his own strength. He is a law enforcer, and he is using the power of laws to fight against Chu Kuangren. Han Fei grinned. Law enforcer. Sure enough, the law is not the Tao, it's just a wisp of heaven's will. Ha! Qilin demonic fist. Chu Kuangren roared, and a strange creature appeared. The scarlet fist light turned black, and its demonic power was awe-inspiring. Han Fei closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, Han Fei's body had already flown 1,000 meters away. He burst out a fist mark that was as bright as the sun. Vajra demon suppression. Moo! A strange sound broke out, and in front of the golden fist mark, the dense demonic chi was crushed along the way. Han Fei's body began to surge. At this moment, the agility of wind had been increased by 5 times. In the face of Han Fei, who had become stronger, Chu Kuangren naturally would not accept defeat. So what if I'm a law enforcer? When have I, Chu Kuangren, ever been afraid of a battle? The two collided in an instant. Suddenly, the battle technique was activated again. At this moment, Han Fei's strength had increased to a higher level. Moreover, with the power of law enforcer, the two of them hammered and shook with the sound of drums. Around the two of them, the gravel was crushed into sand. This was a group of people without any fancy moves. It was a head-numbing hand-to-hand fight. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren did not come at a good time. He was powerful, really powerful. Han Fei's fusion state was destroyed, and Han Fei was forced to become a law enforcer. So, how could Han Fei let go of this hatred? At this moment, when Chu Kuangren bombarded Han Fei's body, it was as if he had hit a sea-quelling bizarre treasure. When Han Fei bombarded Chu Kuangren's body, blood burst, tendons broke, and bones were broken. Han Fei grinned coldly. Let me tell you a secret, this is called glaring Buddha. Boom! Boom! Chu Nanfeng shouted, you can stop now. All of a sudden, Han Fei erupted all his strength. Stop my ass. Go to hell. Bastard. Chu Nanfeng was about to make a move, but he saw a figure blocking dozens of miles away. Han Fei's punch directly penetrated Chu Kuangren's chest. Han Fei seemed to have grabbed something and crushed it. Behind Chu Kuangren, the ground exploded, which was caused by the fist wind. At this moment, one of the legends of the Thousand-Star City, Chu Kuangren, died. Chapter 1027. In the Boneyard, when Han Fei found the real way to the invincible realm, he actually already knew how to enforce the law. However, at that time, he found that there were too many laws he could enforce. The so-called law enforcement was to master a wisp of the rules between heaven and earth. This rule allowed cultivators to stand out in a certain aspect and achieve the effect of winning by a surprise move. At first, the first thing Han Fei wanted to enforce the law was strength. All cultivation, in the end, could turn into a battle of strength. Secret methods might gradually weaken with the improvement of one's realm and strength. Because the higher one's realm and strength were, the stronger the body's endurance and consumption would increase crazily. The improvement of the power of the secret method would become weaker and weaker. But pure strength wouldn't. This seemed to be a simple law, but when Han Fei came to the Scattered Stars Island to fight 5 people alone, he only found that a strength-type law enforcer was the most difficult to deal with. But at this moment, Han Fei gave up this idea. He could make up for his strength in other aspects. What was his greatest advantage in battle? It was physique. The breakthrough of the 3rd level of the indestructible body gave Han Fei the qualification to fight these law enforcers head-on. Ordinary hidden fissures were nothing to him. The 108 Desolate God body combined the major acupoints, which improved Han Fei's physique to another level and made up for the drawback that Han Fei had meridians. Because Ren Tianfei's meridians were severed and his acupoints were refined. Therefore, the indestructible body was extremely strong. But Han Fei was different. Since he had meridians, the Desolate God body refined the major acupoints all over his body into one, which could be regarded as making up for the gap between his indestructible body and Ren Tianfei's indestructible body. Since his greatest advantage was his physique, Han Fei finally decided to become a law enforcer. He needed to magnify this advantage. However, he didn't know if there was such a law in this world that could strengthen his physique. So, he chose the Buddha golden body that he was most familiar with, which had never appeared in this world, also known as the unbreakable diamond body. As for what he said just now, it was just nonsense to deceive others. But unexpectedly, as soon as he used this method, lightning almost fell. It could be seen that Han Fei seemed to have embarked on a road of invincibility that led to nowhere. Chu Kuangren shouldn't have died, and Han Fei couldn't kill him. But when the law descended and he was about to enforce the law, Han Fei was able to use the power of the law to kill him. Chu Nanfeng was enraged and attacked brazenly. However, to everyone's surprise, a figure with messy hair blocked his way. However, the man chuckled and said, "Is that all the magnanimity of an aristocratic family? It was supposed to be a life and death match, but after losing the fight, as an explorer, you want to personally deal with a junior? Run! Heavens! Fly! Voila!" The aristocratic clans, the 7 great sects, and even the spectators from afar all gathered around. At this moment, their expressions changed dramatically. "This lunatic is back." Han Fei turned his head in surprise. He was a little shocked. Ren Tianfei once said that he would meet him in the Thousand-Star City. But today was obviously not a good day to meet. All the big shots in the Thousand-Star City had gathered at the Heavenly Sword sect. "Are you here to deliver food?" Mu Tianfang's expression changed. "Ren Tianfei, how dare you come out?" Someone from the Yang clan flew into the sky with a giant axe in his hand. "Lunatic Ren, now that you've shown yourself, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings." Someone shouted coldly, "Everyone, back to the Heavenly Sword sect." Okay. It turns out that the Thug Academy is in cahoots with Ren Tianfei. No wonder. No wonder. Luo Xiaobai and the others looked at each other. This was not the first time they had heard of the name Ren Tianfei. When Old Bai talked to them, he once said that 3 people had been to the Immortal Palace. One was the Thug Patriarch, one was Han Guanshu, and the other was Ren Tianfei. And the sea quelling painting was said to have been stolen from the Immortal Palace by Ren Tianfei. At this moment, Luo Xiaobai and the others couldn't help but wonder if there was any connection between the 3 of them. But no matter how they thought about it, they felt something was wrong. They were people from 3 different eras. Why did they get together because of the Immortal Palace? Ha ha ha! Ren Tianfei looked at the sky. "Heavenly Sword, I'm just a clone. Just sit in the Sword Pavilion." When everyone heard that Ren Tianfei only came with a clone, they couldn't believe it. Since this clone could easily take a blow from Chu Nanfeng, how could it be just a clone? Han Fei, on the other hand, was a little surprised. Why did this figure and appearance feel like a corpse? Yes. After checking again and again, Han Fei was sure that this was definitely a corpse. Ren Tianfei refined a puppet clone. Maybe he just gave a little bit of his soul to this puppet. However, if this clone was very precious, how could Ren Tianfei throw it out so casually? Suddenly, a voice came out of Han Fei's heart. "Acting." Han Fei calmly asked, "Senior, who are you?" Ren Tianfei chuckled. "I didn't expect that there would be a junior in the Thug Academy who has reached such a high level in body refining. Boy, what kind of body refining technique are you practicing?" Han Fei thought to himself, Ren Tianfei probably wants to distance himself from me. So he said bluntly, 108 Desolate God Body. Everyone present frowned slightly. Before, some people guessed that Han Fei had inherited Ren Tianfei's body refining technique. But now, it seemed to be wrong. However, 108 Desolate God Body? They had never heard of it before. Ren Tianfei said leisurely, "Not good enough. Boy, are you interested in being my disciple? I'll teach you the indestructible body, a unique body refining technique. How about it?" Immediately, someone's face changed and he shouted, "Lunatic Ren, that's evil." Ren Tianfei laughed and ignored that person, but glanced at Han Fei and said, "You just need to destroy all the meridians in your body. You won't die." The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Then. Forget it. Ren Tianfei despised him. "Humph. You're so mean. There can be no construction without destruction. Kid, you still haven't comprehended it." Chu Nanfeng said coldly, "Ren Tianfei, you're just a stray dog. How dare you clamor here? Even if your real body is here, you can't be so arrogant in the Thousand-Star City." "Bah! No one in the Chu sect is qualified to talk to me. Who do you think you are? You're just a peak-level explorer. When you become a venerable, you can talk nonsense again." Chu Nanfeng sneered. "Do you think you can get away?" Ha ha ha, Ren Tianfei laughed. When did I say I was going to leave? Ren Tianfei glanced around at the crowd. Don't you want to see the trump card of the Thug Academy? I'm their trump card. I've made a deal with the Thug Academy. As long as the people of the Thug Academy are in the 1,000-star city, no matter who treats them unfairly. Humph, wait for my revenge. Han Fei was speechless. This trick again. Old Han stood behind him and threatened the big families in the 1,000-star city. Now, Ren Tianfei was going to stand behind the Thug Academy and threaten the big families. However, Han Fei immediately found that this trick worked every time. Judging from the current situation, Ren Tianfei, this old bastard, couldn't be weak. It was very likely that he was also a venerable. However, if a venerable went crazy, which family wouldn't be shocked? Which family would dare to attack the Thug Academy unscrupulously? Even a big family like the Chu sect dared to ignore Ren Tianfei's words, not to mention those who didn't have a venerable in their family. Attack the Thug Academy? At this moment, Luo Xiaobai and the others were stunned. Another venerable was standing behind the Thug Academy. Ha! Suddenly, Han Fei smiled and said, "Thank you very much, senior." Then, Han Fei walked out of the Sword Origin Seal, looked at Chu Nanfeng, and said leisurely, "Well. Don't you want to see the trump card of the Thug Academy? Isn't the Chu sect arrogant? If you have the ability, continue to be arrogant." Chu Nanfeng's face was dark. He found that Ren Tianfei didn't have the aura of a living person. Immediately, he confirmed that this was indeed a clone. If Ren Tianfei didn't come in person, what was the point of leaving a clone? At the same time, his heart sank. Has one of Ren Tianfei's clones reached the level of an advanced explorer? Then, has his main body recovered to the Exalt realm? This matter needs to be considered carefully. Han Fei glanced around. Now, I, Han Fei, have become a law enforcer. If the big families want to send people to make trouble, I'll welcome them at any time. I'll still say the same thing. If one comes, I'll kill one. If two come, I'll kill a pair. In addition, the Chu sect had better keep their promise. Within half a year, get out of the sight of the Thug Academy. Ha! If the Chu sect is shameless, we can cancel the previous bet. Gulp. Many people from the ordinary family swallowed. How could they find fault with him? If Ren Tianfei doesn't show up in person, who would dare to touch the Thug Academy? Someone said to each other via voice transmission, "This is not good." If the Thug Academy really joins hands with Ren Tianfei, those lunatics will definitely do anything. Someone frowned. The key is Han Fei. What is he doing? Did he kill Chu Kuangren with the power of the laws just now, or is he really so strong after becoming a law enforcer? Someone said decisively, it must be the power of the laws. A hidden fissure breaking through to become a law enforcer seems to be a big gap, but he couldn't kill Chu Kuangren before. He must have used the power of the laws to win. In the distance, many hidden fissures sighed. I still can't believe it. Did lunatic Chu really die like this? Someone smiled bitterly. He's already dead. His internal organs are all broken and turned into meat paste. How can he still be alive? At this time, Ren Tianfei said, "Does anyone want to stop me today? If not, I'm leaving. Do what you should do. Remember, I dared to break into the 1,000-star city twice, and I don't mind doing it a third time. Anyone who wants to fight me, think about your family's strength first." Chapter 1028. Now that they knew that Ren Tianfen was just a clone, no one wanted to fight this guy. Obviously, everyone knew that it was meaningless to fight a clone. Besides, this was an explorer clone. Did they really think they could fight him? If the Venerable of the Heavenly Sword sect didn't take action, even Chu Nanfeng and Mu Tianfang would be injured. Besides, this was the territory of the Heavenly Sword sect. If Ren Tianfen chose to fight in crowded places, the Heavenly Sword sect didn't want to see that. Ren Tianfen didn't say much to Han Fei, but when he left, a voice sounded in Han Fei's heart. First the Sky Meditation Garden, then the Ideal Palace, and finally the God's Memorial Tower. Han Fei's expression remained unchanged. Old bastard Ren put the God's Memorial Tower last. Obviously, this God's Memorial Tower was the way to the Central Temple. As for the Sky Meditation Garden and the Ideal Palace, what were they exactly? Well, Han Fei planned to go directly to Tang Jiyi's wedding. He would just leave Zhou Yinling and Li Luoluo in the Thug Academy. Seeing that the battle had been settled and the crisis of the Thug Academy had been resolved, Mu Tianfang's wedding should continue. Mu Tianfang said, "Everyone, please return to the sword exhibition field and let the ceremony continue." Mu Tianfang took a deep look at Han Fei. He knew that the Thug Academy wouldn't be so reckless as to send Han Fei and the others here. However, he never expected that the Thug Academy would cooperate with Ren Tianfen. This was out of everyone's expectations. Ren Tianfei was an out-and-out lunatic. No one knew where he came from, and no one knew why he rose. No one noticed where this guy passed the heavenly tribulation. Anyway, the first time Ren Tianfen appeared, he directly fought his way into the Thousand-Star City. For no reason, he directly attacked the big families. Back then, Ren Tianfen was so angry that he slaughtered more than 30 explorers with his hands. One of the venerables was directly crushed by him. The second time, Ren Tianfen broke into the Divine Palace and stole the sea-quelling painting. It was also at that time that the venerables of the Thousand-Star City came together and beat him up. At that time, a venerable was crushed by Ren Tianfen. They thought that even if Ren Tianfen didn't die that time, he wouldn't be able to rise again. But who knew? This time, Ren Tianfei appeared again, which made everyone's attention rise to the occasion. This guy seemed to only target the aristocratic families. How could the great clans not be afraid of them? They didn't ask for the reason and just attacked right away. As expected. Although there were still many people who stayed to watch the ceremony, some hidden fishers left first. They must have gone back to report the news. Originally, when the guests arrived, it should have been afternoon. After the incident with the Thug Academy, the Heavenly Sword sect set up a special place for the Thug Academy. However, Han Fei was not one of them. After saying a few words to Luo Xiaobai, he ran to Tang Gu and entered the inner gate of the Heavenly Sword sect with Tang Gu. On the way, all the disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect looked weird when they saw Han Fei. Behind him was the girl who had been robbed by Han Fei. At this moment, she stole a few glances at Han Fei and thought to herself, how did this guy grow so fast? From the level 3 fishery to the present, in just a few years, he had grown to the point where he could kill peak-level law enforcers. After a while, Han Fei came to Tang Jiyi's residence. At this moment, a group of Tang Jiyi's senior and junior brothers were gathered here. However, the Heavenly Sword sect. A group of guys who used swords were usually old-fashioned and calm. For example, John Doe. At this moment, they saw Tang Gu enter the door. Someone said, "Tang Gu, I think you can put away your halberd. Why don't you use a sword?" Someone analyzed, "Remember when you go out at night, you must be handsome and followed by thousands of swords. Only in this way will you look imposing." Someone agreed, "The clothes on your body should be white. White looks good." Someone shook his head. "White is not appropriate. It should be black. It looks imposing." Puff. The group of people all talked at once. Suddenly, they heard laughter at the door and turned around, only to see Han Fei laughing. Tang Gu was like a piece of wood at this moment. A group of senior and junior brothers were there, some carrying swords, some carrying clothes, some black, some white, and some even carrying green clothes. Looking at Han Fei, Tang Gu was embarrassed. Well, this is quite troublesome. The group of senior and junior brothers looked at Han Fei strangely. Did Han Fei enter the inner gate? Han Fei said leisurely, "Wedding. It's a big wedding, brothers. Why are they all black, white, yellow, and green? Of course they are red." Huh. Immediately, the group of senior and junior brothers were surprised and stunned. thinking, we sword cultivators are very handsome, but we all wear white and black clothes. Who wears red? Immediately, someone disagreed. No, why do men wear red? Yes, that's what women wear. Han Fei was speechless. Get out of the way, get out of the way. It's already a wedding, but you haven't even prepared clothes. I'm really worried about you. Someone was speechless. Anyway, red definitely doesn't look good. Tang Gu also frowned. Red, indeed, is not very good. Han Fei sneered. Then you haven't felt the charm of red. Come on, let me, the #1 refiner of the Scattered Stars Island, make a set for you. Then you'll understand. Someone was surprised. Are you going to make it now? The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. With a clatter, a pile of messy cloth appeared. Flames of spiritual energy burst out, and in the crimson light, golden threads spread and wandered on the red robe, and the prototype of a long robe appeared. To the group of people's astonishment, the golden threads turned into dragons, gold and red intertwined, and a red robe with coiling dragons appeared. And Han Fei made a set of it. In addition to the dragon robe, there was also a phoenix robe with dancing phoenixes and golden sleeves. The girl following Han Fei said in shock, "Wow! This is even better than the clothes of the Linglong Tower." Han Fei curled his lips and said, "Clothes are all about creativity. This robe symbolizes the flying dragons and dancing phoenixes, the auspiciousness of dragons and phoenixes." The girl was shocked. Why are they all made of ordinary gold? Except for the red silk, these clothes are only low-quality spiritual weapons, right? Han Fei chuckled. Girl, this is a wedding. It's not a fight. Why do you need such high-quality clothes? You can only wear these clothes once. Then Han Fei casually refined a pile of jewelry and handed them to the girl. Take them, take them. Try them with Mu Ling and put them on. They will definitely look brilliant. Then Han Fei said, everyone, I'll have a private chat with Tang Gu for a while. Everyone was still shocked by the style of this dragon and phoenix robe. How could clothes be made like this? But then they realized that Han Fei and Tang Gu were brothers, so they left one after another. The guy who said that red didn't look good had already thrown away the clothes in his hands. After a moment, inside the soundproof array, Han Fei said, although I know that venerables should be able to hear us, I don't think they will eavesdrop, will they? Tang Gu chuckled. Of course not. Tang Gu hurriedly said, are you okay just now? Don't be reckless in the future. The scorching sun essence can't be underestimated. This time, you are the law enforcer, but there is one thing you have to remember. Chu Kuangren is not the strongest in this generation. In addition to Chu Kuangren, there is another person in the Chu sect who ranks third on the heavenly talents list of their generation. He is very strong. Han Fei nodded. Who is it? Tang Gu said solemnly, Chu Qingyan, the proud daughter of the Chu family. It is said that she is more talented than Chu Kuangren. Han Fei asked in surprise, a woman? Tang Gu nodded. Don't underestimate her. In every generation, there will always be some extremely outstanding people. None of the top 3 in Chu Kuangren's generation is simple. Han Fei nodded. Got it. I'll be careful. Don't worry about this. What I want to tell you is that after your wedding, no matter what happens in the Thug Academy, don't get involved. Don't get involved. Tang Ji's face suddenly changed. No, although the Thug Academy is temporarily safe because of the checks and balances. But once this balance is broken one day. Han Fei said, when the balance is broken, what can you do to help? Old Han asked you to marry Mu Ling because he wants you to cultivate and grow in an absolutely safe environment. Even if you want to help, you should at least have the strength to explore, right? You should pass the explorer's heavenly tribulation first, and then we can talk about other things. Tang Gu frowned. What about you? In the 1,000-star city, if you want to improve your strength, you can only take the path of the 1,000-star proving ground and the 3 holy lands. The 3 holy lands are mysterious and mainly a place to temper the soul. The 1,000-star proving ground is very difficult. Many of the secret realms in the galaxy have been mined, and the rest are not easy to mine. I'm afraid the star beads of the Thug Academy are not enough for you to cultivate for a long time, right? Han Fei patted Tang Gu on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry. When I reach the peak of Law Enforcer, I will leave the 1,000-star city." Tang Ji's expression changed. "Did foster father find a place for you to break through?" Han Fei thought for a while and nodded slightly. "Sort of. So, I may not stay in the 1,000-star city for a long time. There are not many law enforcers who can threaten me. As long as nothing happens to the Thug Academy during this period, there will be a way out." Han Fei and Tang Gu were talking. And 100 kilometers away, deep underground, an old man narrowed his eyes slightly and murmured, "Did I miscalculate? Was it Han Fei who caused the sky to change? It seems that Han Guanshu paved a way for his son. It's really a good plan." Chapter 1029. At night. In the sky above the heavenly sword sect, rays of light burst out, sword shadows flickered, and silver light shone. Lanterns and banners were hung everywhere, and the sword practice field was full of chatter. Mu Tianfang appeared in person, standing in midair, wearing a green robe and with a smile on his face. "Everyone, today is a joyous day for the Heavenly Sword Sect. Thank you for coming. The Heavenly Sword Sect has a heritage of 10,000 years and upholds the Sword Tao. Today, my beloved disciple and my beloved daughter are cultivating together. The future is long. I hope the two of you can support each other and explore the Tao together. Clap, 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 congratulations, Sect Master Mu. Sect Master Mu, your beloved disciple and daughter are cultivating together. Everyone is envious. Sect Master Mu is so lucky." On the Thug Academy side, Yi Xian sat next to Zhang Xuanyu. "Darling, it's so romantic." Zhang Xuanyu's face suddenly changed. "Have you forgotten what you should call me?" Yi Xian stuck out her tongue. "Senior brother." Zhang Xuanyu said, "Why hasn't Han Fei come out yet? Why is he joining in the fun?" Lu Renquang was eating sea spirit melon seeds and said, "They're brothers. God knows what he's doing." Luo Xiaobai and Zhou Yinling looked at each other and then said, "According to Han Fei's personality, he must be doing something." Zhou Yinling pursed her lips and waited curiously. She didn't know Tang Gu, but she was quite curious about this wedding scene. Of course, she also wanted to see the fireworks Han Fei made. If only Han Fei could show them to her often. Clang clang clang. The bell rang 3 times in a row, and the world shook. Swish. 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 Thousands of swords floated in the air and turned into a tide of swords, bursting out in the sky. There was a leisurely melody slowly rising, ethereal like the sounds of nature. Hoop. A white dragon phantom appeared in the distant sky. Han Fei stood proudly on the phantom, wearing a golden-laid red robe, and the golden dragon on the robe was dazzling. At the moment Tang Gu came out, Han Fei appeared in the Thug Academy camp with a swish. Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes. "If you didn't come back, I would have thought you were going to be the groom." Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei. "You've become a law enforcer. When will you go to the 3 sacred lands?" Han Fei said, "Tomorrow, man proposes, God disposes. Since we've broken through to the law enforcer realm in advance, we'll go to the 3 holy lands tomorrow." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Okay." Li Luoluo nodded. "Okay, okay." Han Fei asked in surprise, "You're not staying in the Thug Academy?" Li Luoluo widened her eyes and said, "Of course not. If you guys go, I'll definitely go too. I also want to experience what the 3 holy lands are like." Han Fei looked at Zhou Yinling, who blinked and pursed her lips. "Then should I stay and teach them?" Yi Xian jumped with joy. "All right. Han Fei said angrily, what's so good about you? The nine-tailed mantis shrimp is also staying in the Thug Academy. Gu Qi, Xingyu, and the others looked at Yi Shiyan, wishing they could throw her out. Who asked you to speak out of turn? As long as the nine-tailed mantis shrimp is here, can we live a good life? At this moment, Zhou Yinling's eyes flashed as she looked into the distance. Everyone hurriedly looked over and found that Mu Ling had come with Tang Gu. Mu Ling was an array master. At this moment, she was wearing a phoenix robe and stepping in the air, arrays condensed one after another. Beside Mu Ling, there were 3 female disciples of the Heavenly Sword sect, all manipulators. At this moment, in midair, flowers bloomed and surrounded Mu Ling. And in the sky, there were pink petals falling, making Mu Ling look like a fairy walking out of a sea of flowers. Mu Tianfang couldn't help but nod. Not bad, but I wonder who made this dress. It's quite nice. Tang Gu and the others all looked at Han Fei. This dress is so unique, it must have been made by Han Fei. Zhou Yinling subconsciously folded her fists on her chest. It's so beautiful. Yi Shiyan even chattered, darling, I want it too, I want it too. Senior brother Han Fei, I want this dress too. Zhang Xuanyu said angrily, shut up, you're only 12 years old. Yi Shiyan snorted. So what if I'm 12 years old? I'm already an adult at 12 years old. Zhang Xuanyu directly covered Yi Shiyan's mouth. What are you shouting for? Watch the ceremony. At this moment, Tang Gu and Mu Ling, one riding a dragon on a sword, the other accompanied by thousands of flowers, attracted the eyes of many people present. When the two landed, they looked at each other. Tang Gu was a little shy, and Mu Ling was smiling. Both of them had their eyes on each other. Cough, cough. Mu Tianfang coughed slightly, and Tang Gu immediately reacted and bowed. Tang Gu pays respect to master. Huh. Han Fei said via voice transmission, Master. Call me father. Tang Gu blushed and was a little embarrassed. Tang Gu greets. Father, okay. Mu Ling smiled slightly. Ling, greets father. Mu Tianfang laughed and said, good, good, good. Tang Gu, Dao integration double cultivation is a major event in life. Don't let me down. Tang Gu said seriously, yes, in this life, I will treat Ling well and never abandon her. Mu Ling's eyes were full of tears. She was so happy. Han Fei looked at the stage, which was bustling and lively. Mu Tianfang gave gifts, Tang Gu and Mu Ling toasted each other, and the two of them held hands and bowed to everyone. In this hustle and bustle, Han Fei couldn't help but think, this is Tang Ji's road, and my road is still very long. Go to the waterwood heaven, become a law enforcer, fight the sea demons, take charge of the divine palace. And the distant boundless sea, the mermaids, and rebuild the heavenly desolate city. For a moment, Han Fei sighed. The road is long, and I will continue to explore. Zhou Yinling silently looked at Han Fei, only to see that Han Fei was in a daze. Is he thinking about that woman? Zhang Xuanyu kept pouring wine into his mouth with a smile. Interesting. This Dao integration double cultivation doesn't look bad. Yi Shiyan giggled and peeked at Zhang Xuanyu from time to time, thinking, the man Dad and Mom found for me is not bad. He's really good looking. As for Luo Xiaobai, she still looked indifferent as if she had never thought about Dao integration double cultivation. Lu Renquang was stuffing himself with wine. In fact, the etiquette here was only slightly different. According to Han Fei, it was actually a bit simple. He just wanted to announce that they had Dao integration double cultivation, and then there was only a lot of blessings. Of course, he also wanted to protect Tang Gu. In the future, when Tang Gu becomes a law enforcer and knows that he is the son-in-law of the Heavenly Sword sect, who would dare to stop him? Han Fei was speechless. Why did these people give gifts in advance? Now there are no gifts to give. Han Fei jumped out with a swoosh and said, Han Fei, have specially given you a huge gift to celebrate Tang Gu and Mu Ling's Dao integration double cultivation. In the seat of honor, Mu Tianfang was chatting with people. Tang Gu and Mu Ling were surrounded by a group of senior and junior brothers. Han Fei suddenly jumped out and everyone was stunned. Is this the gift-giving session? It doesn't seem to be, right? Besides, Han Fei said that he would give a huge gift. What kind of gift could be called a huge gift? Even Mu Tianfang couldn't help but be taken aback. It seems that this gift is very precious. After what happened in the afternoon, although Han Fei was a heavenly talent, he was actually not well received in the Thug Academy. Therefore, although some people were curious about Han Fei's so-called huge gift, not so many people were willing to pay attention to him. Tang Gu pulled Mu Ling out of the crowd. Han Fei, that's enough. My foster father has already given me and Ling, quelling bizarre treasures. Han Fei said with a smile, my gift is unique in the world. A girl sneered. Who else could it be but Mo Fian? She said in disbelief, unique? Do you think you're bragging? I'd like to see what kind of huge gift it is. Can it be called unique in the world? Yang Diyu muttered, the wine glass in my hand is also the only one in the world. Hey! What gift? Look at it. Han Fei turned his head, only to see a young man holding a fruit in his hand with a cynical look on his face. Swish! 1,314 cylinders fell on the martial arts practice field, one every few meters, covering a distance of thousands of meters. Immediately, someone sneered. What is this? It's not even a spiritual weapon. Ha! Han Fei, this is the gift for your brother's wedding? Someone was speechless. What the hell is this? You might as well grab some stones and put them on it. Someone wondered, is he setting up an array? It doesn't look like an array. Mu Ling looked at Tang Gu in confusion. Your brother is going to do something again. 1,314 cylinders. That's a good idea. Tang Gu was also quite curious. What was Han Fei doing? However, Luo Xiaobai and Zhou Ling gasped at the same time. How many cylinders did Han Fei make at once? More than 1,000. Han Fei grinned. Look carefully. This is the only time you'll see this thing in your life. Everyone, rub your eyes and open them wide to see clearly. With that, Han Fei stepped on the ground, and those flame flowers were ignited by the spiritual energy flames one after another, like rows of ignited sparks, making a sizzling sound. The group of people was still puzzled. What was this? Zhang Xuanyu wondered, what is this? Even we haven't seen it before. While stuffing dried fish into his mouth, Lu Renquang said, I haven't seen it before, but I'll see it soon. Li Luoluo asked curiously, what is he doing this time? Hearing Han Fei's words, Xing Yu and the others were staring at the burning fuse, their eyes wide open. Swish, swish, swish. Just when everyone was staring at the fuse, in an instant, rows of flames rushed into the sky. Anything, once there was a large number of them, looked spectacular. Unfortunately, this was the Heavenly Sword sect, where thousands of swords hung in the sky. Therefore, this scene didn't bring a sense of shock to the people. Li Xian couldn't help chuckling. That's it. However, as soon as he said that, there was a crackling sound in the sky. Everyone watched as each streak of fire exploded in the sky, exploding into hundreds and thousands of colorful light spots. And that was just the appearance of a fireball exploding. At this moment, there were thousands of them, continuously spraying flames. For a time, the entire sky above the Heavenly Sword sect seemed to be in a galaxy, shining with colorful stars. Wow! Finally, someone couldn't help but cry out. For a moment, Mo Fian, Li Xian, and the others felt as if they had swallowed a fly. In terms of congratulations alone, it seemed that this method was indeed quite shocking. Countless women raised their heads and marveled as if they were fantasizing about something. Li Luoluo was shocked. Oh my god, is there such a wonderful thing in the Thug Academy? Why didn't I know? Mo Fian, who had just mocked Han Fei, widened her eyes at this moment. How could there be such a beautiful thing in this world? Mu Ling couldn't help but open her mouth. So beautiful. Tang Ge scratched his head with one hand and giggled. Ha ha, Yi Xian shouted, look, there are words. There are words. Everyone quickly blinked their eyes, only to see that after some fireworks bloomed, they directly turned into words. It read, husband and wife for a day, marriage for 100 lifetimes. 100 years of cultivation cross the boat together, 1,000 years of cultivation sleep together. Wish, Tang Ge, Mu Ling grow old together. Till the end of time, the seas run dry and the rocks decay, the third chapter. Asking for votes. The wonderful plot doesn't last that long. It was mainly prepared for Tang Ji's temporary retirement. The other was to intensify the conflict between the Thug Academy and the big clans. End of this chapter. Chapter 1030. Thug Academy. Last night, after attending Han Fei's wedding, Han Fei knew that he needed to draw a line with Tang Ge for the time being. Before leaving, Han Fei directly sent a voice transmission to Mu Tianfang, expressing his intention. Mu Tianfang also knew the pros and cons. Han Fei's identity was very special. After obtaining the sea quelling painting, he had a chance to become a king. However, it was exactly because Han Fei obtained the sea quelling painting and was a member of the Thug Academy that he was destined to be at the center of the storm. Did they really think that the aristocratic families would just let it go? If the first plan didn't work, there would naturally be a second plan. Since he couldn't deal with them blatantly, there were naturally other reasonable ways to deal with them. For example, Han Fei had become a law enforcer. Even Mu Tianfang himself didn't expect that Han Fei would choose this time. At this moment, in the mountain behind the academy, Luo Xiaobai frowned and said, "You didn't have to kill Chu Kuangren yesterday. The timing to become a law enforcer is not right." Han Fei nodded. "I see. However, I have to use a powerful method to kill him and intimidate those aristocratic families. Now that Chu Kuangren was dead, these people would not immediately send someone else to cause trouble for him. After all, they don't know how strong I am. You exposed a lot of things yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, right now, all the major families are searching for information about your desolate god body and yin-yang divine eyes." Han Fei nodded. "So, we have to hurry up and consolidate our strength in the 3 holy lands. Now that I've become a law enforcer, there will be more trouble in the future. In the 3 holy lands, you have to become law enforcers too." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Are you really going to leave it to Zhou Yinling? Give it to her. Now, anything in the world could be a way for Zhou Yinling to grow. Going to the 3 holy lands should not be the path she wants to take." Luo Xiaobai said lightly, "The Sky Meditation Garden is fine, but I'm afraid it will be troublesome to enter the ideal palace. There are crooks and honest folk mixed in there, and there are all kinds of people. The aristocratic families will most likely make a move in the ideal palace." Han Fei grinned and said, "Then you can become a law enforcer in the Sky Meditation Garden. When the time comes, I will go to the ideal palace first." Since Han Fei embarked on the invincible realm, he no longer hesitated. The road was here. He just had to walk over it. This was the confidence that his strength gave him. Han Fei said, "Go inform Zhang Xuanyu and the others first. Wait for me for a moment." "All right." After Luo Xiaobai left, Han Fei checked his information data. He was planning how to go from a beginner law enforcer to the peak. A message appeared in his mind. Owner Han Fei level 60, beginner enforcer, spiritual energy 4325681, 44852, spiritual power 9999/9999 range 500 miles, law enforcement, invincible Vajra strength 3 waves, first spiritual vein, LV7, lower grade, second spiritual pulse, unawakened, first spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 52, second spiritual beast, unawakened main art, divine manipulation technique, level 5 of void fishing, heaven level, divine quality, due to the bad timing of the breakthrough. Yesterday and the intense battle, Han Fei was stuck at level 60. However, he had a feeling that he could advance at any time. As expected, there was no change in his spiritual power. It was because after swallowing the source water, it had increased too much and it would take some time to digest it. The indestructible body of a law enforcer didn't mean that it was really indestructible. There were many law enforcers who had their techniques broken. In this world, there was no absolute indestructible body. However, for a law enforcer, it was very difficult to break Han Fei's indestructible body head-on. As for his strength, Han Fei had now increased his strength by about 1 wave. However, the bonus of the secret method of devil change became 7 times, which was lower than before. However, even so, when his secret method broke out, his strength exceeded 20 waves. This was already comparable to the green wandering dragon he encountered in the underground city. Of course, if the green wandering dragon also had a secret method, he was still far from it. It couldn't be said that Han Fei's current strength was very strong. At the level of a law enforcer, the difference in strength was too great. In fact, Chu Kuangren's strength was far superior to Han Fei's yesterday. The reason why Han Fei could win was that the agility of wind was too fast, he borrowed the power of the punishing saber, and his indestructible body was too strong. On the other hand, although Chu Kuangren was also a body refiner, he was obviously weaker than him. Han Fei had to sigh. The indestructible body created by this old bastard Ren Tianfei was really strong. At least so far, he hadn't seen a body refinement technique stronger than the indestructible body. Of course, without the punishing saber, Han Fei would have been completely defeated and had no chance of winning. Except for Cao Qiu's God of War bloodline, that guy was famous for his defensive power. The tenfold defense of the Cloud Dolphin was no joke. Moreover, Chu Kuangren's spiritual beast yesterday made Han Fei realize that there were more powerful spiritual beasts in this world. If there was no accident, the one that appeared yesterday should be a Qilin, a real legendary creature. In addition to strength, the second spiritual vein and spiritual beast probably couldn't be opened before he got the other half drop of source water. After all, the second spiritual vein appeared because of the origin water. If the origin water was incomplete, how could it be awakened? And the 6th level of the void fishing art couldn't be deduced in the 1,000-star city. He had to go to the Shuimu heaven. Otherwise, everyone's attention would be on him now. He couldn't find the time or the place to deduce it. He remembered that when he deduced the 5th level, he was almost discovered by Shueishenqi's people. At that time, he was 300,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island. As for the 7th level, he had to find a way to get it from the Zhang family. But how to get there? When would he go? Han Fei didn't know. He needed an opportunity to suppress the Zhang family. Now, there was no chance at all. Ha! I can only continue to deduce. Han Fei sat cross-legged. Now, the only way to directly enhance his strength was to deduce the devil change and push it to the venerable level. However, after reaching the venerable level, the demon purification pot would no longer be able to do anything. It should be the limit of its deduction. In this case, he had to see if he could continue to strengthen the demon purification pot after getting the 3rd small vine, deduce. 100 million points of spiritual energy were consumed crazily. After a while, information appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Demon King's contract, venerable level, low quality, remarks, the will of the Black Turtle Demon King descends and summons the demon overlord with huge energy as a sacrifice. In a short period of time, the combat power will be increased several times according to the level of the caster. Current improvement, 10 times disadvantage 1, the stronger the improvement, the more energy will be consumed. Once the energy is consumed too much, the body's potential will be overdrawn. Disadvantage 2, frequent use or mental demon barrier. Disadvantage 3, easy to fall into the demonic path deduced art. Unknown remarks, the current deduction limit of the demon purification pot has been reached. If deduced again, it will involve the mysteries of heaven and earth and will damage the demon purification pot. Seeing this information, Han Fei's face changed slightly. The will of the Demon King descends? Could it be that there really was such a king among the demons? Besides, being called a Demon King was obviously a bit problematic. He had just become an invincible Vajra-level law enforcer. This should be regarded as a Buddhist, right? Although there was no Buddha in this world, this seemed to be the polar opposite of the Demon King's contract. Easy to fall into the demonic path and develop mental demon barrier. It seems that the more advanced the secret method is, the greater the side effect. Forget it, I'd better not use this thing unless I have to. Theoretically speaking, devil change is enough. As long as I quickly break through to level 61, my strength should be able to increase. It's a pity that the effect of the spirit awakening fluid is already very small. I can only use it to cultivate little fatty and little gold. After all, they haven't become law enforcers yet. Han Fei stopped thinking. If he had the chance to see Ren Tianfen again, he would have to ask him how to break through the indestructible body art in the future. The road of body refinement was too difficult. Although the indestructible body art could be deduced, it was already extremely difficult to cultivate now. If he deduced it again, it would be a problem whether he could continue to cultivate. He had to communicate with Ren Tianfen. He couldn't deduce blindly. Sorting out his thoughts, Han Fei got up and teleported to the Rubik's Cube library. Today, Lu Rinquang didn't even cook but gathered here, waiting to set off for the 3 Holy Lands. After 3 months of cultivation, Su Daiji and the others' physiques had almost been improved. Except for Su Daiji, the others were almost unable to suppress their strength and were about to break through to advanced fishing masters. Lu Rinquang asked, "Let's go." Han Fei said, "Wait a minute." The Rubik's Cube library began to spin rapidly. After a while, it returned to its original shape. Han Fei pressed his palm on one side and entered the interior through the teleportation array. After a while, Han Fei threw more than 2,000 combat skills and cultivation methods into it. Then, he put more than 10 fishing master-level star beads and maps in it. After doing this, Han Fei came out and messed up the Rubik's Cube again. Han Fei said, "Xingyu. Senior brother." Han Fei glanced at the Rubik's Cube and said, "The body refinement stage is over for now. Each of you go to the Rubik's Cube to find no more than 5 combat skills. When you're done, the 5 of you will start the actual combat. Teacher Jiuyin will watch you. If you dare to be lazy, ha." The appearance of the 9-tailed mantis shrimp made Xingyu and the others' blood freeze. Han Fei kicked the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and said, "During this period of time, keep an eye on these guys. Whoever is naughty and doesn't cultivate seriously, beat her up." Han Fei said this to Yi Shiyan and Su Daiji. Yi Shiyan pouted and thought to herself, "I won't be naughty." Su Daiji, on the other hand, ran to Han Fei and stretched out her hand. She seemed to realize that Han Fei might be gone for a long time, so she wanted to ask for the toys in the back first. With a black face, Han Fei threw a 6th-grade Rubik's Cube over. "You can only play it when you're free." Then Han Fei looked at Jiuyin Ling. When they can cooperate as a team and can be said to be invincible in the same realm, set up an arena outside the Thug Academy. Whoever can defeat them will be rewarded with 5 ultra-quality spiritual weapons and 50 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid. Jiuyin Ling thought for a moment and nodded slightly. "Be careful." Han Fei nodded and looked at Xingyu and the others. "Don't be careless. We may come back at any time." "Yes, senior brother." Chapter 1031. Sky Meditation Garden, one of the 3 holy lands of the Thousand-Star City. Since ancient times, it had always been the place where the natives of the Thousand-Star City cultivated their souls, and it was also the safest of the 3 holy lands. Han Fei, who had already read the information, knew that this place was divided into 3 levels. The first level, the Visualization Garden. This was a large piece of undulating grassland like sand dunes in the desert. The grassland divided a beautiful arc on the ground, with lakes, trees, and flowers. If it weren't for those undulating lines, which always created a spiral texture on the ground, this place could even be regarded as the largest golf course in the world. On this huge ground grassland, there were often some stone tablets and weird sculptures standing. People could improve their soul power by visualizing these relics. The second level, the Endless Tower. It was a circular building built in the middle of the Sky Meditation Garden. Its surface was covered with spirit plants. There were spiral stairs in the tower, and no one knew how many floors it had. However, no one had ever been able to reach the top of this tower. Since ancient times, no one had. It was said that strange things often happened in the tower, which varied from person to person. Everyone's situation was different, so Han Fei and the others had to see for themselves. If they wanted to get out of the tower, it was very simple. There was an exit on each floor of the tower, and as long as they came out, they would definitely appear on the first floor of the ground. It was extremely magical. The third level was also known as the Soul Forbidden Space. It was said that only the top heavenly talents could enter this magical place that had been separated from the Sky Meditation Garden. In the information of the various families, the big clans all concealed this. The Luo family didn't treat Han Fei and the others as outsiders, so they directly showed them the information. According to the information, the third heaven was above the void, hidden within the cracks in the void. That was the real core of the Sky Meditation Garden. However, this didn't mean that everyone who had gone to the Soul Forbidden Space would gain a lot. Just like in the Endless Tower, everyone's situation was completely different. The Sky Meditation Garden alone was divided into 3 levels, one difficult and the other difficult. Correspondingly, the Ideal Palace also had 3 levels. However, this didn't mean that the 3 Holy Lands added up to the 9th level. In fact, each Holy Land had a division of 3 levels, which corresponded to people of different levels and talents. However, the requirements for the Ideal Palace were stricter. At this moment, they came to the Sky Meditation Garden. At the entrance, one could see that the island was shrouded in mist. To be precise, the 3 Holy Lands were shrouded in mist. There was only one entrance, similar to the 1,000-star testing field. There was an independent island outside the Sky Meditation Garden. This island did not have a name and only served as the entrance to the Sky Meditation Garden. Standing on the island, Han Fei and the others were slightly surprised to see the boats coming and going and the people with different strengths. Zhang Xuanyu said in surprise, "The weakest is a dangling fisher, and the strongest is a law enforcer." This Sky Meditation Thought Garden is very accommodating. Luo Xiaobai replied, "The Sky Meditation Garden is the safest of the 3 Holy Lands." The number of people who died in the Sky Meditation Garden could not even be counted in a year. As for the Visualization Garden, there had never been any news of anyone dying there. Therefore, this is also the Holy Land that people love to come to. Lu Renquang said, "That's good. Is fighting allowed inside?" What Lu Renquang meant was, would anyone come to pick a fight with him? After all, Han Fei had just killed Chu Kuangren yesterday. Han Fei had become a law enforcer, but they didn't. In the realm of hidden fissures, they were not invincible, so they needed to consider this point. Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "No, in theory, no one will die in battle in the 3 Holy Lands. The Sky Meditation Garden has soul restrictions. If you fight rashly, it is easy to cause soul suppression, no one is an exception." Lu Renquang patted his chest and said, "That's good." Li Luo said, "So, this place is only for improving the soul realm?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Not necessarily. Some people have obtained soul combat skills from the visualization objects in the Sky Meditation Garden. However, the probability of this is very small." Han Fei didn't care about their conversation but glanced around and said leisurely, "It seems that we are being watched again." Luo Xiaobai followed Han Fei's gaze and soon found some hidden fissures watching this side from time to time. Zhang Xuanyu smiled and said, "Of course. You just killed Chu Kuangren yesterday. How can they not pay attention to us?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Don't worry. The Sky Meditation Garden is the safest place. Even if they want to make a move, they won't choose the Sky Meditation Garden. Most likely, if they want to make a move, they will choose the Ideal Palace." Han Fei nodded. Let's go. Let's go in and have a look. Because there were too many people going to the Sky Meditation Garden, it could be described as a stroll in the park. Therefore, even if law enforcers and hidden fishers came over, they only attracted the attention of some people. Most people had long been used to it. What was this like? When they strolled in the park, they saw a lot of beautiful girls, and after seeing a lot of them, they got used to it. Between the entrance island and the Sky Meditation Garden, there was a white jade bridge. After crossing this bridge, the fog in the surrounding area thinned a little. After all, this was the entrance, so people had to see the road clearly. Han Fei and the others walked unhurriedly into the fog with the others. After walking about 100 meters, the fog gradually became clear. The first thing that came into view was a statue of the sea god. Han Fei was very familiar with this statue. He often saw it. It was the statue of the sea god that was enshrined in the major villages and towns. Han Fei chuckled. This is a good sign. If we find the statue of the sea god, we will find the entrance. Luo Xiaobai nodded. The entrance is easy to find. In addition to the statue, its terrain is also relatively high. Li Luo exclaimed, "Huh! There are no insects here." Everyone was slightly taken aback. Li Luo's words were not simple. Such a large island, hundreds of kilometers in diameter, didn't even have a single insect. It didn't make sense. Zhang Xuanyu said, "The perception here is invalid." Li Luo said again, "The law enforcer ability here is not available." Han Fei tried it, and his body suddenly emitted a golden light. His invulnerability seemed to be slightly blocked, but not to the point where it couldn't be used. Why couldn't Li Luo's law enforcer ability be used? Han Fei said calmly, "It seems to be suppressed." "I can't use it either." Luo Xiaobai said, "After all, this is a holy land. Shall we take a look in the visualization garden first? Or go directly to the Infinity Tower?" Before Han Fei and the others could make a decision, they saw someone greet them with a smile. "I've never seen you before. I guess you haven't been here for long, right?" Luo Xiaobai asked, "Who are you?" Han Fei glanced at the man. He was just a junior hidden fisher, which was quite ordinary. The man said with a smile, "Guys, I am familiar with the Sky Meditation Garden. I have recorded all the visualization objects here, large and small. I can sell it to you for only 100 caddies of spiritual spring." Lu Renquang's face immediately trembled and he said, "Go away, we will see it ourselves." Han Fei raised his eyelids and said, "Oh. How much information do you have about the Infinity Tower and the Soul Forbidden Space?" "Ah." The man's face stiffened slightly. "Brother, are you kidding me? The Infinity Tower, how can I have a map? Since you know about the Soul Forbidden Space, you should know that that place is not a place you can go whenever you want." Han Fei suddenly lost interest. "Okay, we don't need a map of the visualization garden." "Alas." "Wait." Han Fei and the others were about to leave, but the man stopped them again. "Well, actually, I have some information about the Soul Forbidden Space." "Hee hee. The price." The young man raised 5 fingers as if Han Fei and the others had gotten a big bargain. Li Luo asked, "How do we know whether your information is true or false?" The man's face immediately changed. "Miss, you are looking down on me. Who in the Sky Meditation Garden doesn't know me, Wang Santai? Am I, Wang Santai, the kind of person who would lie to others?" Han Fei turned his head, stopped a young dangling fisher at the door, and asked, "Do you know Wang Santai?" The young man glanced at Han Fei, then at Wang Santai not far away, and couldn't help but say, "Isn't he?" Wang Santai lied again and was caught. Han Fei smiled and said, "It's okay. Thank you." Han Fei turned his head, tilted his head, and glanced at Wang Santai. "Yes. Indeed, everyone knows Wang Santai." Wang Santai's face turned blue. "Am I the kind of person who would lie to others?" He is talking nonsense. Okay, this number. Wang Santai's 5 fingers became 3 this time, and he looked very distressed. Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes. 300 caddies. You want 300 caddies of spiritual spring just by throwing out a piece of news? Wang Santai said, is it expensive? You are all dignified. Do you think a mere 300 caddies of spiritual spring is expensive? Only the ignorant would call me a liar. Think about it, who here is more familiar with this place than me, Wang Santai? I have come to explore the Sky Meditation Garden since I was a child. This place is equivalent to my back garden. Han Fei was speechless. She really knows how to say that. Your back garden. Why don't you go to heaven? Luo Xiaobai had already led her people away, and Wang Santai took a few steps forward, blocking everyone. Okay, you win. Then. 200 caddies, no lower. Han Fei smiled and said, tell me about it. As long as what you say is valuable, 200 caddies of spiritual spring is nothing. Wang Santai looked at Han Fei again. You have to pay a deposit, right? Han Fei flipped his hand and handed over 20 caddies of spiritual spring. Wang Santai was stunned and thought to himself, how stingy. However, he still took the 20 caddies of spiritual spring with a wave of his hand. Luo Xiaobai rolled her eyes. Do you believe that? Han Fei shrugged. I'm rich and capricious. Wang Santai chuckled. Hey, I'm really not lying to you. It's not that no one has ever been to the Forbidden Soul space, but it's extremely difficult. Some people go in by luck. But this luck is built on an extremely powerful foundation of one's own divine soul. Han Fei nodded. What do you mean? Chapter 1032. Han Fei really didn't expect Wang Santai to give him anything useful. Although Wang Santai's strength was low, he still worked hard to do business. Just based on his shameless spirit of wanting money, so what if I give him 20 caddies of spirit spring? Wang Santai looked around, and Han Fei stepped on the ground to set up a soundproof array. Don't worry, no one can hear us. Wang Santai thought to himself, it turns out that you are a spirit gatherer. He said in a low voice, according to my years of understanding, the Sky Meditation Garden is actually not as simple as I think. It can be called the 3 Holy Lands together with the Ideal Palace and the God's Memorial Tower. How can it be simple? Most people can't even pass the Endless Tower. They can't even touch the Forbidden Soul space, so they choose to go to the Ideal Palace. Han Fei said helplessly, get to the point. Wang Santai smiled and said, don't panic. In fact, if you want to go to the Soul Forbidden Space, there is a basic condition. Luo Xiaobai asked, what condition? The basic condition of spiritual power. Because spiritual power can't be calculated like spiritual energy, I can only calculate it based on the range of perception. I have to perceive at least 300 kilometers to be able to go to the Soul Forbidden Space. Lu Renquang rolled his eyes. How much? Zhang Xuanyu cursed. I think you are just trying to cheat me of my money. Li Luoluo screamed, how is it possible? According to what you said, even I, a law enforcer, can't go up. Wang Santai was taken aback. Is this girl a fucking law enforcer? However, Wang Santai didn't care and sneered. If even a law enforcer can go up, why is this place called one of the 3 Holy Lands? As I said, perceiving 300 kilometers is just a basic requirement. This is what I have analyzed after so many years of observation and the information of those who have been there. Han Fei smiled and said, okay, this is the basic condition. What other conditions are there? Wang Santai chuckled. Well, isn't the deposit just now a bit too little? Zhang Xuanyu wanted to kick him. Han Fei gave him a look and he gave up sulkily. Fuck, I haven't even said a few words and he's asking for money again. This money-grubbing skill was really on par with him. However, it wasn't easy for them to do business. At the very least, they put in the effort to research, right? So Han Fei flipped his hand and threw another 30 caddies of spiritual spring to him. Go on. Wang Santai put away the spirit spring without anyone noticing and smiled. I know that it's practically impossible for ordinary people to sense within 150 kilometers. However, there were many law enforcement officers whose perception range could reach this number in the later stage. As long as one was willing to take the time to visualize, the range of one's perception would increase. But those law enforcement officers are basically unable to go up. So, I can't help but think. Get to the point. Wang Santai howled. The point is that these people have underestimated the visualization garden. Everyone thought that the visualization garden was just a layer of heaven and that it was just some ordinary visualization objects. Actually, according to my calculations, everyone who can go to the forbidden space has carefully walked around the entire visualization garden. Luo Xiaobai said, you must have sold this information to a lot of people. Who went in? Name names. Wang Santai chuckled. Not really. However, I'm sure that this visualization garden has its own secrets. Bah! Zhang Xuanyu said, don't try to bluff me. Your words are ambiguous, and I have to thank you for going in. You can't go in, but I can't help you. You're really something. Hey! Brother, you can't say that. I've worked hard to get this information. You can ask who doesn't know that I, Wang Santai, grew up in the Sky Meditation Garden. Han Fei waved his hand. Okay, let's cut the crap. Go on. You basically didn't say anything. It's our first time here, so we will naturally go to the visualization garden. What else do you have to say? Wang Santai smiled at Han Fei, and Han Fei flipped his hand and threw another 50 caddies of spiritual spring to him. You'd better say something useful this time. Otherwise, there won't be anything else. Wang Santai smiled obsequiously and quickly put away the spiritual spring. Then, now there's only one last piece of information left. This information is absolutely worth 100 caddies of spiritual spring. Speaking of which, I've suffered a loss. Han Fei said helplessly, get to the point. Hey. I just said that the visualization garden has to be looked at carefully. However, very few people know that the Infinity Tower is actually mysterious. All the people who enter the Infinity Tower disappear. They never meet a second person in the Infinity Tower. Why? I guess. Luo Xiaobai said helplessly, do you have anything other than guesses? Wang Santai smiled and said, don't panic, listen to me. According to my experience since I was a child, I suspect that this Infinity Tower has never existed. Huh? This time, everyone was stunned. Doesn't exist? Are you fucking kidding us? Lu Renquang said, I've seen the map. Do you think it doesn't exist? Li Luoluo asked, isn't it in the center of the Sky Meditation Garden? Hearing this information from Wang Santai, Han Fei secretly pinched his fingers. This guy didn't lie this time. Han Fei couldn't help asking, why do you think the Infinity Tower actually doesn't exist? Wang Santai chuckled and said, brother, is this news shocking enough? The rest of the spiritual spring. Han Fei flipped his hand and threw 100 caddies of spiritual spring over. Whether Wang Santai was right or not, this news was indeed worth 200 caddies of spiritual spring. This provided an unprecedented idea. Luo Xiaobai noticed Han Fei's expression just now and glanced at Zhang Xuanyu, motioning him not to say anything. Han Fei asked, tell me. What gave you such a delusion? Wang Santai chuckled and said, it's very simple. The Infinity Tower seems to be only more than 500 meters high. However, if you keep climbing up, you can't climb up even after climbing thousands of floors, and when you come out, you still appear directly on the ground. Some people think that this is caused by some mysterious power. I don't think so. The Sky Meditation Garden is originally for people to cultivate. What's the point of setting up an endless tower? Han Fei pondered for a moment. Okay, I've asked all the questions. Let's go. Wait a minute. Han Fei was just about to leave when Wang Santai stopped him again. Brother, I also know some news about the ideal palace. I, Wang Santai, am known as the Little Smart of the Three Holy Lands. This title is not for nothing. Think about it. Han Fei finally couldn't help but say, fuck you. I'm not interested. If you can, let me meet you in the ideal palace. With that, Han Fei pulled Wang Santai's hand away and left with Luo Xiaobai and the others. Behind him, Wang Santai didn't seem to care. He seemed to have long been used to this scene. He murmured, it's not easy to make money. I heard that the unknown place is a good place now. Forget it, it's too dangerous. I'd better make more money. On the other side. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei and said, can you believe what that person said? Zhang Xuanyu nodded. I think he's a liar. He's not trustworthy. Lu Renquang nodded. I think so too. You were actually cheated by him. Li Luoluo also nodded, thinking that this person was not trustworthy. Han Fei thought to himself, what do you know? I've counted with my fingers, and he said with a smile, it's nothing more than 200 caddies of spiritual spring. Do we lack such a little spiritual spring now? However, he is right about a few things. Since the Sky Meditation Garden can be called one of the three holy lands, there shouldn't be a place like the Visualization Garden. So, let's just have a look. Zhang Xuanyu shrugged. What else can we do? Our perception range can't really reach 300 kilometers, right? I feel that even if I become a law enforcer, my perception range can only reach 100 kilometers. 300 kilometers is the foundation? I'm afraid we have to wait until we become peak-level law enforcers. Han Fei said, well. Anyway, we don't plan to go out so soon this time. Compared with the outside, it's safer inside the Holy Land and there won't be any trouble. Why don't we take a detour and walk around the entire visualization garden before we decide what to do next? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Okay. However, this island is not small. Let's meet under the Infinity Tower in half a month. Zhang Xuanyu nodded. I have no problem with that. Lu Renquang nodded. I think a simple visualization object may also be effective for me. I agree. Li Luoluo also agreed. Otherwise, who would she go with? Everyone separated. Han Fei took a breath, chose a random direction, and went straight away. Only half an hour later. Han Fei saw that many people were sitting in front of a broken stele, seemingly meditating. Looking at these people, most of them were dangling fishers. It was obvious that the visualization object on the stone tablet was the most ordinary and low-level visualization image. However, Han Fei hadn't seen many visualization images. So, he stopped and glanced at it slightly. But on the broken stone tablet, there was only an ordinary little fish engraved. Although the painting was quite exquisite, Han Fei recognized that it was just a little white fish at a glance. Ha! This can also be a visualization image. Han Fei looked at it for 2 minutes and found it very ordinary. Did it need to be visualized? However, Han Fei still felt a little touched. This image was memorized in his mind, and he didn't need the demon purification pot at all. Ha! It's a little bit calming, but very little. Han Fei walked past the child like he was taking a walk. After Han Fei left, someone opened his eyes and couldn't help but wonder, do strong people also look at little white fish? Soon, Han Fei found that there were many visualization objects here. On a rock, someone had drawn a few white lines. That was also a visualization object. On a stick inserted in the ground, there were some vague patterns on it, which was also a visualization object. A wooden stake, which had been withered for so many years that only mottled growth rings were left on it, which could also be regarded as a visualization object. Only then did Han Fei discover that the visualization objects here really subverted his cognitive world. In the villages and towns, visualization images were like a drop of water in the sea, which could only be found by chance. However, here, they were everywhere. Although their level was not high, there were a lot of them. Almost in front of every visualization object, there was a team of people sitting cross-legged and visualizing. However, if he guessed right, there shouldn't be many more advanced visualization objects. After all, when he met Chao Qiu, his perception range seemed to be only 800 meters. Of course, it might also be because Chao Qiu was lazy. Otherwise, there was no reason why a big family like the Chao family couldn't find a good visualization image. How fierce was Chao Tian at that time? And Chao Qiu only wanted to eat soul crystals. However, why were there so many visualization objects left here? Chapter 1033. Han Fei looked all the way and didn't stay too long in front of each visualization object. As he looked, Han Fei's face became more and more weird. At this moment, he was standing in front of a ball. Yes, this was a ball, a rubber ball with a graffiti-like crab on it. And in front of this ball, a group of hanging fishers were visualizing. Han Fei was going to leave, because a visualization object of this level was useless to him. But for some reason, he saw a hand appear on the ball. It was extremely illusory and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Am I hallucinating? Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, hey, can anyone pause? How's the effect of your visualization? Someone frowned, snapped back from the visualization, and shouted, silence. Except for this person's words, no one paid any attention to Han Fei. Han Fei thought for a moment. All of you are quite aloof, aren't you? Although Han Fei could feel a trace of soul fluctuations from the crab pattern. However, the fluctuations of this intensity were indeed very low. For Han Fei, it was as good as nothing. Even at this intensity, so many people were visualizing it. Han Fei said again, who can squeak? I told you to shut up. The boy just now glared at Han Fei. We are cultivating. Han Fei smacked his lips. You're not strong but have a big temper. What can you achieve by just visualizing this? Han Fei raised his foot. Bam! With a kick, the ball turned into a perfect parabola, flew into the sky, and disappeared over this huge grassland. Well. It feels good. At that moment, many people were still closing their eyes. However, a few people suddenly opened their eyes and took a closer look. Hey, where is the visualization object? The boy just now pointed at Han Fei angrily. What are you doing? Han Fei sneered. What am I doing? I'm playing football. Who told you to ignore me? The boy was speechless. We are cultivating. Can't you see it? Han Fei shrugged and said, is it worth cultivating a visualization object of that level? Isn't it something that can be seen at a glance? It's just a fucking toy. Han Fei was very sure that it was really a toy. Perhaps it was some random scribble by a child. He had once wondered if an object would become a visualization object if it was left for too long. But to Han Fei's surprise, if it was really just a ball, it should have been gone after being put here for so long. It was impossible for him to have so much chi, the young man sneered. Do you think you can destroy the visualization object with a kick? You're underestimating the Sky Meditation Garden. These teenagers could tell that Han Fei was very strong. However, in the Sky Meditation Garden, they were really not afraid. He had never heard of anyone being beaten up here. What do you mean? The next moment, Han Fei's eyes widened. He saw the ball that he had just kicked out reappear silently in the air and reappear in front of Han Fei. Fuck! Han Fei was shocked. What's going on? Han Fei immediately reached for the ball. In the end, a youth said, are you sick? Why did you touch the visualization object? Han Fei glanced sideways and his eyes turned cold. In an instant, the group of teenagers was so scared that they kept retreating. The young man who spoke turned pale. What kind of look is that? Why is it so fierce? Han Fei reached out, picked up the ball on the ground, waited a little, and then said to the crowd, after taking your visualization object, you can find another place. Also, let me tell you, this visualization object is very low level. Don't be stupid enough to visualize it here. What can you visualize with a ball? A girl said timidly, you can't take it away. You can't take it out. Once you put it down, it will disappear. A teenager said, you can't put it into your sea-swallowing seashell either. This is the rule. Han Fei grinned and said, I'm just playing with it. With that, Han Fei turned his hand, put a finger on the ball, and began to spin it crazily. Seeing this scene, the group of teenagers was speechless. What is this guy trying to do? After snatching the ball, Han Fei slipped away. The group of teenagers was speechless. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? Han Fei spun the ball while humming a tune, but as he hummed, he found that his fingertips were becoming lighter. Huh? It's disappearing. Han Fei didn't know if it was an illusion, but at the moment when the ball became lighter, he seemed to see an illusory figure in the void. Giggle. What's that sound? Han Fei's face suddenly changed. There seemed to be something wrong with his perception. He seemed to see a child flash in the void and snatch the ball in his hand. Yes, the ball was not disappearing, but being snatched away. All of this was not seen by Han Fei's naked eye, but his perception that was triggered and perceived naturally. Although it was very short and extremely illusory. And Han Fei was very sure that it was a little girl. Did I just see a ghost? Han Fei took a deep breath. This was a huge joke. He just wanted to see what would happen if he took away the visualization object here. Han Fei thought that after a certain distance, the visualization object would automatically disappear and return to its original place. However, he had never expected that the visualized object would disappear in such a manner. No, there must be something strange here. Han Fei couldn't help but speed up, trying to find another visualization object to see if what happened just now would happen again. After about 100 kilometers, Han Fei found himself in a forest. These trees were not tall, and there were colorful little bells hanging on them. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but at that moment, Han Fei seemed to see a small white figure running through the forest. Han Fei hurriedly chased after it. Unfortunately, he found nothing. Ding-ling-ling, because the surface of these bells was very smooth, no one regarded them as visualization objects. Therefore, apart from Han Fei, there was no one else here. Han Fei raised his head and frowned at these bells. For some reason, he always felt strange, as if he was being watched. Suddenly, Han Fei felt a hand push on his thigh. Although the force was not heavy, he was pushed by someone. How could Han Fei not know about this? Han Fei immediately turned his head, only to feel a white shadow passing by and finally disappearing. Gulp. Han Fei swallowed. Of course, he was not afraid, but just a little creepy. It was fine for others to visualize here, but when he saw the first stone tablet, he felt something was wrong. The white shadows that appeared frequently, and the one just now, who knew if it was a girl's shadow? This was very strange, okay? Han Fei reached out and swept his hand over the bells. Immediately, a crisp sound rang in the forest. After waiting for a while and finding nothing, Han Fei gave up observing this small forest. He continued to walk to the depths of the visualization garden. The first day. Han Fei looked at hundreds of visualization objects and saw the weird white shadow more or less in more than 30 places. This made Han Fei completely believe Wang Santi's words. This visualization garden was indeed strange, very strange. The next day. Han Fei looked through more than 50 visualization objects, and about 10 of them were of a relatively high level, enough for a hidden fissure to visualize. However, now Han Fei was no longer looking for visualization objects, but the white shadow. The third day. The fourth day. Han Fei searched for the traces of the white shadow for 7 days. In these 7 days, he was sure of something. What kind of visualization garden was this? It was really just a garden. Most of the things in it, in Han Fei's eyes, were toys for children. Of course, if he hadn't seen the white shadow, he might have thought that the visualization garden was just a low-level training field for dangling fishers and hanging fishers. But now, he didn't think so. For example, he saw a piece of sand, which could write crooked words on its own. For example, he saw a bird sculpture in a certain place. The bird's neck was like a slide. For example, he made a small hole in the ground, like a hole in whack-a-mole. After Han Fei got in, his head popped out, and he was knocked on. All these could not be seen by others, only by him. Han Fei attributed this situation to the high power of his soul. After all, his spiritual power was 9,999, and his perception range had already exceeded 300 kilometers. In fact, Wang Santi's guess had some depth. Because his spiritual power was very low, he couldn't perceive the white shadow in the nothingness at all. And for most people, how many could reach 9,999 points of spiritual power in the early stage of law enforcers? Wang Santai said that perception of 300 kilometers was a basic standard, and there was also luck to have a certain chance of going to the soul-forbidden space. Did this mean that only when his spiritual power and soul power reached a certain level could he have a chance of perceiving this white shadow? At this moment, Han Fei was lying on a grassland that looked like a jellyfish circle. Like the crop circle, because there was no visualization value here, no one came here. The shape of this strange circle was like a huge jellyfish. It had an umbrella-shaped jellyfish head, a circular lower body in the middle, and 6 twisted tentacles on both sides. This was definitely a jellyfish. Han Fei was lying in the middle of the strange circle at the moment, because he just saw the white shadow here again. In Han Fei's eyes was the illusory mist. This mist enveloped the sky meditation garden. Lying down and watching, Han Fei found that these mists were moving. Unfortunately, they couldn't be grouped together like clouds. Occasionally, they could still form a few strange shapes. "Brother!" Suddenly, a tender voice sounded in Han Fei's ear. As soon as this voice sounded, Han Fei shivered. However, he didn't get up but turned his head to look aside. At that moment, Han Fei's eyelids twitched wildly. Because he saw a little girl only 3 or 4 years old squatting on the ground, looking at him curiously. 4th update. Add one more update for monthly votes. May 3rd should be, end of this chapter. Chapter 1034. Han Fei swallowed. In this visualization garden, all kinds of cultivators could appear. This was not a problem. Didn't Wang Santai say that he had been paying attention to this visualization garden since he started cultivating? But why was there a little girl of 3 or 4 years old here? This shouldn't be the case. The little girl, wearing a white pleated skirt, holding a small mallet in her hand, with 2 small braids on her head and big watery eyes, was very cute. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. "Hi. Little girl, hello." Seeing that Han Fei spoke, the little girl immediately covered her mouth and jumped up excitedly, like a crazy little girl. The little girl shouted, "Brother, are you here to play with me?" Han Fei narrowed his eyes, but his face was full of a bright smile. "Of course, I am a messenger sent by the heavens. I am here to play with you." "Of course. There are no messengers in the heavens." Han Fei chuckled and said, "Little girl, what's your name?" The little girl bit a little finger and thought for a long time in a childish voice. My name is Een." Han Fei grinned. "Een." "Why are you here alone?" Een suddenly burst into tears and said, "Mom and Dad haven't come to see Een for a long time." "Boo-hoo. Brother, do they not want Een anymore?" Seeing the little girl like this, Han Fei immediately said, "Of course not. Mom and Dad just have something very important to do. When they finish, they will come back to see Een." The little girl rubbed her eyes and finally relaxed. "Really?" Han Fei nodded heavily. "Of course. They were afraid that Een would be too lonely, so they asked me to come to see Een. She was just a child, so it was easy to lie to her." The truth would always strike a child's young and fragile heart. So, sometimes, a lie didn't mean deception or irresponsibility. After all, this world was too complicated. Sure enough, when Yin heard this, she immediately shouted excitedly at Han Fei, "Really? Mom and Dad didn't abandon Yin?" Han Fei laughed. "Of course. Yin is so beautiful. How could anyone be willing to abandon you?" Han Fei's heart sank. There was definitely something wrong with the Yin he saw. If it weren't for the fact that the demon purification pot didn't show any information, Han Fei would have suspected that Yin was an undead creature. But no matter what, Yin-er's parents had definitely abandoned her and left her alone in the Sky Meditation Garden. What exactly is Yin-er's current condition? This was predictable. How could such a cute little girl who could live in a place like the Sky Meditation Garden be an ordinary person? Han Fei guessed, is it related to the central holy city in the center of the Thousand-Star City? He had never heard anything about the sacred central city. Was there someone who used to live there? Could this little girl Yin be related to the central sacred city? However, before Han Fei could continue thinking, Yin had already held Han Fei's little hand and pulled him. "Brother, play with me." Han Fei thought to himself, how can I play this game? Right now, the visualization garden was filled with people. However, after only a few steps, Han Fei's pupils constricted. Whack-a-mole? Something's wrong. I passed by this place a few days ago. How did I end up here? Is there a teleportation array here? Han Fei immediately discovered that something was wrong. The space he was in was not right. His blood froze. This is too fucking much. Why? Why do I keep encountering this kind of thing? The heavenly desolate city had returned to the past countless years ago. This time, where the fuck was he taken to? Yin shouted, "Brother, let's hit the fish heads." Huh? Han Fei was stunned. Fish heads? Yin shouted, "Come out, all of you." As Yin shouted, the heads of ironhead fish popped out of the hole one after another. Yin grabbed a small mallet and knocked it in the air. A hammer shadow appeared and hammered an ironhead fish into the hole. "Brother, hit it too." Han Fei found that there was a small club in his hand at some point. Immediately, the corners of Han Fei's mouth twitched, and he knocked with Yin. While knocking, Han Fei thought to himself, this is really a whack-a-mole game. I should have confirmed it a long time ago. Han Fei said, "Yin, where did the fish heads come from on the ground?" Yin, was having a good time. She giggled and said, "I planted them. Dad planted them before." Han Fei swallowed. How could a person who could plant ironhead fish on the ground be an ordinary person? After a while, Yin, seemed to be tired of knocking. She dropped the small mallet and pulled Han Fei. "Brother, let's go play on the swing." This time, after running another 2 steps, the scene changed. Han Fei appeared in a forest, where there was a swing. Han Fei couldn't help but swallow. Distance was useless to Yin. But why didn't it work on him? He had noticed it, but he still didn't know how he came here. Seeing that Yin, was having a good time, Han Fei could only play with her. Maybe this girl had been lonely for too long, or maybe the Sky Meditation Garden was built just for Yin. Not only was there no concept of distance here, but there was also no concept of time. Han Fei didn't even know how long he had been here. He played ironhead fish with Yin, played on the swing, threw a ball, sat on the slide, listened to the wind chimes, and touched the little white fish in the river. At this moment, Yin, was so tired that she was lying on the ground, and Han Fei also pretended to be lying on the ground. Han Fei asked casually, "Yin, the tall tower in the middle, aren't we going to play there?" Yin, was panting. Hearing Han Fei's words, she immediately sat up, obviously depressed. "Brother, are you leaving?" Han Fei grinned and said, "Of course not. I'm just asking." Yin, pursed her lips like a little adult and said, I know you're going to leave. You're very busy too. Hearing Er's words, Han Fei couldn't help but feel his heart soften. Which son of a bitch's parents left a little girl here and didn't care about her at all? How important was it that they didn't even want their daughter? Han Fei rubbed Er's head and said, Be a good girl. I want to see if I can find Mom and Dad back. Was not in a good mood, but she said sensibly, Mom said that when I can climb to the top of that tower one day, I can see them. But has never climbed up. The little girl's eyes were red. And Han Fei seemed to have heard a bolt from the blue. It turned out that the infinite tower turned out to be a scam. It was built to deceive a few years old child. If they could come back, wouldn't have been left here and become like this. That was why the tower was called the Infinite Tower. Since even couldn't go up, what was the point of going to that tower? Han Fei couldn't help but say, be a good girl. One day, we will climb up. Tried to grin. Brother, let's go. I'll take you out. Han Fei frowned. I can go out. The little girl is very sensible. Although was very pitiful, Han Fei couldn't spend all his time here. This was only the first of the 3 holy lands, and he had already encountered such a situation. Han Fei got up, touched Er's head again, and said, believe me, one day, you will have a good home. Han Fei didn't know if understood or not. Anyway, he had already appeared in front of the Infinite Tower. Han Fei had been circling around the visualization garden. Luo Xiaobai said that they would meet in half a month. Therefore, he didn't go there directly. Therefore, this was the first time he had seen the Infinite Tower. Sure enough, this was a large column wrapped in green plants. At this moment, was holding Han Fei's hand tightly and looking at him eagerly. Brother, will you come back? Han Fei really didn't know how to answer. In the end, Han Fei nodded slightly. Since he hadn't left the 1,000-star city, he could come to the Sky Meditation Garden whenever he wanted. So Han Fei promised, I promise you, I will definitely come back to see you. Hearing Han Fei's affirmative answer, she said, brother is the best. Brother, go to the tower and you can go out. Huh? Han Fei said in surprise, go in? Go out? Tugged at her pigtail and grinned at Han Fei. Yes. Standing at the gate of the Infinite Tower, Han Fei had a guess. He looked back at Girl, aren't you coming in? Shook her head. Has climbed many times. Goodbye, brother. Han Fei said seriously, be good. I will come again next time. Okay. With that, Han Fei turned around and walked into the tower. When Han Fei walked into the Infinite Tower, the scene in front of him changed. This was not the interior of a building. He was clearly standing in a dark void. Sure enough. Han Fei sighed. He guessed right. This should be the Soul Forbidden Space. Wang Santai didn't lie. The way to enter the Soul Forbidden Space was indeed through the visualization garden. However, not everyone could see If you wanted to see you must have a strong soul power. Thus, the Sky Meditation Garden had set an extremely high level of rules from the very beginning, shielding the majority of people from it. As for why peak-level law enforcers and even explorers couldn't see there was probably another reason. At least, he should be in the Soul Forbidden Space now. There was nothing around and the soles of his feet were also dark. Han Fei couldn't help asking, excuse me, is anyone here? Chapter 1035. There was no response from the void at all. Silence. Apart from nothingness, there was only nothingness. Is anyone there? Han Fei was a little confused. After all, this was a place known as the Third Heaven. There was a hidden child in the visualization garden. If the Endless Tower was fake, then was this place also fake? That's not right. The Sky Meditation Garden was a place that could cultivate the divine soul. This place shouldn't be empty. Then why don't I try to practice the God-scaring painting here? Although the power of his divine soul had reached a bottleneck. However, what if this divine soul forbidden space could help him break through? Han Fei immediately sat cross-legged and the image of the God-scaring painting appeared in his mind. The entire 200 pieces of the God-scaring painting had been unraveled, and the outline of a spear tip had already appeared. Although only half of it was revealed, that part was already revealed. When he showed off his abilities, he would definitely be extraordinary. At this moment, the tip of the spear seemed like it would break out of the diagram at any time. Every time Han Fei visualized the tip of the spear seriously, he would feel a faint tingling in his soul, as if the tip of the spear was pointing at the center of his eyebrows. Han Fei focused his attention on the 201st fragment. In the end, after trying hard to visualize for a long time, it was still to no avail. No, I've been restricted by a bottleneck. I can't remember anything at all. Yes. Why don't you try to stabilize your cultivation first? Immediately, he activated the void fishing art, and a large amount of spiritual spring water floated in the air, forming a spiritual energy storm that drilled into his body. Fortunately, he could still cultivate in this soul-forbidden space, and his strength and aura were slowly growing. After a long time, Han Fei found that he seemed to be improving too fast, and his qi was a little agitated. He stopped and looked at his information. Owner Han Fei level, 61, Beginner Enforcer, Spiritual Energy, 4325681, 48621, Spiritual Power, 9999/9999 Range, 500 miles Law Enforcement, Invincible Vajra Strength, 4 Waves, First Spiritual Vein, LV7, Lower Grade, Second Spiritual Pulse, Unawakened, First Spiritual Beast. Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish, Level, 52, Second Spiritual Beast, Unawakened Main Art, Divine Manipulation Technique, Level 5 of Void Fishing, Heaven Level, Divine Quality. Han Fei didn't feel anything. Now, every little bit of improvement was a huge gap. From 60 to 61 seemed to be a small distance, but the limit of spiritual energy was still close to 50,000 points. As for the improvement of strength, Han Fei didn't care much about it. This was because the strength of a beginner enforcer was between 3 to 5 waves. This was the most fundamental difference between a law enforcer and a hidden fisher in the cultivation world, and this gap would only grow wider and wider. Similarly, the difference between an explorer and a law enforcer was probably a huge chasm. Even if he had just become an explorer, he wasn't someone a genius law enforcer could compare to. Therefore, it was reasonable for Han Fei to increase the power of 1 wave. He turned around to take a look at the Demon King's contract and found that the increase was still 10 times, which made him feel relieved. This meant that the breakthrough this time did not affect the effect of the secret method. But it might not be the same the next time. Just imagine, when he was fighting Chu Kuangren, his peak strength was no more than 20 waves. It was only by borrowing the power of the punishment saber and the laws that he was able to battle Chu Kuangren. But now, if he really went all out, he could reach 40 waves at his peak, and the sacrificing punch would only be stronger. When facing Chu Kuangren again, it would be a different situation. As soon as Han Fei opened his eyes, he suddenly found a chaotic silver-white line. Ha! Isn't this the Soul Sea's secret method line? Han Fei was shocked. Although he didn't know why these lines appeared. But this was the Soul Sea's secret method he saw in the 72-floor Soul Realm. However, this Soul Sea's secret method did not form a diagram, as if it had been deliberately disassembled. Hiss! The opportunity in this divine soul forbidden space is actually a way to enter the Soul Sea. At that moment, Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. After he became a law enforcer, he hadn't tried to enter the Soul Sea yet. Now that he was in the divine soul forbidden space, wasn't it the right time? Immediately, the Soul Sea's secret method lines outlined a circular outline, and a faint attraction came. Han Fei's vision became blurred, and when his vision became clear, the world in his eyes had become that of a fish's. The world in his eyes was strange and dazzling. Phew. I'm finally in again. With a thought, Han Fei directly transferred the Soul Sea from Little Black to Little White. After many previous experiments, Han Fei was sure that no matter what method he used, as long as he ate primitive spiritual beasts in the Soul Sea, he would eventually form a mass of horror that he couldn't get rid of. This time, he wasn't going to eat it. Since the Sky Meditation Garden was very safe, he didn't have to rush to improve Little Black and Little White this time. Even if he missed the appointment with Luo Xiaobai and the others in half a month, it wouldn't be a big problem. However, to Han Fei's surprise, this time, entering the Soul Sea was exceptionally simple and easy, and even the Soul Sea seemed to take the initiative to let him in. He didn't know if it was his own misconception. Anyway, Han Fei began to swim aimlessly. In his eyes, there were big turtles swimming past him, golden carps passing by leisurely, strange sea urchins rolling in the Soul Sea, big snails flapping, and shells jumping. Han Fei swam for only a short while, but then he saw a red jellyfish jump out with a swish. It was extremely fast and seemed to be escaping. Name: a red lotus jellyfish. Su Tsong's primitive spiritual beast. Introduction: a red beauty in the water that can escape extremely fast. It can turn into red lotus clones and has the ability to suck blood. Level 39. Quality: rare. It contains soul power greater than 679 points. Someone else's spiritual beast. Han Fei immediately chased after it. As early as when Han Fei entered the Soul Sea unconsciously for the first time, he found that if two people were very close to each other in reality, then in the Soul Sea, their spiritual beasts would also be very close. What was the reason? Han Fei didn't know. However, he had never cared about it before. When he entered the Soul Sea before, he had been thinking about how to upgrade, but he had never considered the particularity of the spiritual beasts themselves. Seeing that Little White was chasing after it, the red lotus jellyfish ran faster. This was the level gap, which the jellyfish seemed to be able to feel. After all, it was only a level 39 rare spiritual beast, and it couldn't outrun Little Black and Little White. Han Fei switched to Little Black and caught up with the red lotus jellyfish almost instantly. When Little Black was close to him, Han Fei was hesitating. It's not easy for the jellyfish to awaken a spiritual beast. Did I just bite the jellyfish's spiritual beast to death? Isn't it a bit too much? Suddenly, Han Fei saw a group of spiritual beasts wandering not far away. Among those spiritual beasts, one caught his attention. It was a gale dragon fish. He had seen it once. When he robbed a dragon boat in the level 3 fishery, the spiritual beast that guarded Ruanyu on the dragon boat was the gale dragon fish. At this moment, Han Fei gave up the red lotus jellyfish and sneaked over. Name: a gale dragon fish. Chu Man's spiritual beast. Introduction: a special fish that grows in the stormy sea and can create hurricanes on the sea. The wind is full of energy and can easily crush creatures of the same level. In battle, it carries the power of strong wind. Level 49. Quality: exotic. It contains spiritual energy greater than 7,756 points. Food: shellfish. It contains soul power 2,549. Han Fei blinked. Surname: Chu. Han Fei looked at the creatures around him. There was a purple gold crab, owned by Li Qian. There was a mirror fish, owned by Sun Qi. Haha. Interesting. They are all from the big families. For ordinary people, Han Fei might feel guilty. However, Han Fei wouldn't feel guilty at all if he attacked a member of an aristocratic family. He could only blame himself for being hostile to them. If the other party had the same opportunity to catch his spiritual beast, he wouldn't show any mercy. Suddenly, Little Black's mouth curled up a little as if he was smiling. In the blink of an eye, Han Fei opened his big mouth and bit down. Puff! Voila! At the moment when Little Black opened his mouth, the gale dragon fish was already alert. However, it was too late to run away. Little Black's current level was much higher than this gale dragon fish. Besides, Han Fei bit the tail of the gale dragon fish. If a fish lost its tail, wouldn't it be at the mercy of others? And the spiritual beasts of the other people around only saw the elf-like Little White at the moment when Little Black launched an attack. In their view, Little White, a spirit-swallowing fish, posed no threat at all. But at this moment, the Gale Dragon fish was suddenly attacked. How could these spiritual beasts not be shocked? Outside, in front of a stone pillar, a young man suddenly opened his eyes. He suddenly felt a stabbing pain in his soul, which woke him up at once. However, he didn't look frightened, but surprised. Chu Man didn't dare to show it and tried to calm himself down. He felt that he might have triggered some kind of mysterious technique. It was said that someone once went to the Soul Forbidden Space because he encountered a mysterious technique. Could it be that he encountered it this time? In the Soul Ocean. Han Fei bit crazily. Little Black's level was higher than the wind-splitting dragon fish's, and he was faster and stronger than the fish. Little Black almost crushed it. This time, before the Gale Dragon fish ran out a few hundred meters, most of its body had been bitten off. After a while, this Gale Dragon fish didn't even have a skeleton. A weird smile appeared on Little Black's fish face. Because it found that devouring other people's spiritual beasts could also improve the level of Little Black and Little White. However, the weird smile on Little Black's face didn't last long, and then a palm-sized fish was born from the void. Han Fei looked over suspiciously. Where did this little fish come from? Chapter 1036. The little fish was clearly a small Gale arowana. Han Fei glanced at it and was stunned. Name: a Gale arowana, Chu Man's spiritual beast. Introduction: a special fish that lives in the stormy sea. It can create hurricanes on the sea. The wind is full of energy and can easily crush creatures of the same level. In battle, it carries the power of strong wind. Level 1 quality exotic. It contains spiritual energy greater than 200 points. Food shellfish. It contains soul power a 19. As soon as he saw this information, Han Fei immediately turned over his body, trying to see if there was any soul power escaping. After searching for a while, he didn't find any soul power, nor any strange or abnormal power. At this time, Han Fei's mind fluctuated violently. Spiritual beasts really won't die. Chu Man's spiritual beast was eaten by him, so it returned to the most primitive and low-level state and needed to grow again. Since it didn't die, did it mean that this life didn't end? Since it didn't end, did it mean that he was in the wrong direction from the very beginning? He had always thought that eating those primitive spiritual beasts could quickly improve Little Black and Little White. But in that way, the soul power would escape, and if it gathered too much, it would give birth to fear. Although he didn't know what this fear was, it was like a rule, a restriction. It didn't allow him to have such opportunistic behavior anymore. But now it seemed that if he had eaten other people's spiritual beasts at the beginning, this rule might not have been born. Because other people's spiritual beasts had been reborn. Han Fei also suspected that Little Black and Little White wouldn't really die either. The so-called, if one party survives, the other party doesn't die, should be relative to their current levels. Once both parties died, would they become level 1 creatures like Chu Man's spiritual beasts? But whatever. Han Fei felt that he had discovered a big secret. Eating other people's spiritual beasts in the Soul Sea might be a shortcut. The spiritual beasts around him all belonged to the children of the big clans. Because their bloodlines were relatively good, they were not bad anyway. Moreover, it was very likely that these people were gathered somewhere, visualizing something. Therefore, the spiritual beasts all gathered together. Even if they ran, they didn't run far. After all, spiritual beasts might have intelligence, but they couldn't see Little Black. After a moment. Chomp! An octopus was gnawed through. It wanted to run, but how could it outrun Little Black? A while later. A big mussel's shell was bitten through, and the shell and meat were all eaten up. A light flashed on Whitey's body as it leveled up. After seeing so many spiritual beasts die, these spiritual beasts also understood that danger was coming. They no longer cared if they had to gather here or not. They began to scatter and escape. However, Han Fei had Little White. Unparalleled sense of smell. As long as they appeared, how could they escape from Little White's tracking range? The outside world. In front of a stone pillar, Chu Man was still visualizing. He felt that he might be able to trigger the mysterious technique and was still feeling complacent. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, "Oh no, my divine soul has been pierced." Not long after, another person suddenly opened his eyes. "What's going on? I have a bad feeling that I've lost something." "Ah," a woman shouted, "I was stabbed as well." Chu Man was dumbfounded. "Wait, what's going on? Did they all encounter a mysterious woman?" Chu Man asked, "Have you all been stabbed?" Someone frowned. "I don't know why, but I feel that my spiritual beast wants to come out." With that, the man began to summon his spiritual beast. As a result, the space between his eyebrows flashed. Everyone was stunned. "What the hell is this? A baby octopus?" The man immediately widened his eyes. "What's going on? Where is my blood fiend octopus? How did it become so small?" Everyone's face changed and they hurriedly summoned their spiritual beasts. Suddenly, everyone shouted. All of them were junior creatures, like newborn spiritual beasts. Someone wailed, "How did my mixed element clam become like this?" The girl immediately cried. "My moon yao fish has become a fish seedling." Chu Man's face suddenly changed and he hurriedly summoned his spiritual beast. However, where had the majestic gale arowana gone? How did it become a small fish? For a moment, many people panicked. It felt like a dream. This kind of thing had never happened before. Someone was frightened. "Is there something wrong with this stone pillar? We are all trying to visualize this stone pillar." Someone was at a loss. "Impossible. I've been here before, but nothing happened. If there was something wrong with this stone pillar, it should have been discovered long ago." Someone was angry. It's extremely difficult for spiritual beasts to grow up. Now they have become low-level spiritual beasts. "No, I can't accept this." Someone scolded, "What's the point of not accepting it? Now, we have to find out why their spiritual beasts have become smaller." Chu Man said angrily, "Let's go back and ask our elders." "We don't know, but our elders must know." In the Soul Ocean, Little Black and Little White only improved by 1 level. The main reason was that they ate too little. If there were hundreds or thousands of people here, Little Black and Little White would probably improve rapidly. In this case, of course, Han Fei would go to find other people's spiritual beasts. There were many people in the Sky Meditation Garden. Unfortunately, most people's spiritual beasts were too weak. Those spiritual beasts were probably useless even if they were eaten. Besides, these people had no grudges against him, so Han Fei didn't intend to eat them. Well, now, he had to find those children of aristocratic families who were at least law enforcers or hidden fishers. And most of these people were concentrated in the central area of the Sky Meditation Garden. That was to say, those who wanted to climb up the Infinity Tower. As long as Han Fei found that position, he would definitely have a feast. Han Fei wondered, how can I communicate with Little White? Do I have to think about it? Han Fei asked, daughter, can you perceive me?" Han Fei saw that Little White was still swimming and didn't seem to hear him. Han Fei wanted to send a voice transmission, but he was now a fish. How could he send a voice transmission? It seemed to be different from the inferior man-fish's voice transmission. How did Little Black and Little White communicate with each other? After trying several times to no avail, Han Fei suddenly remembered, can't I fuse with them? How could I forget this? Immediately, Han Fei said in his heart, fuse. All of a sudden, Han Fei sensed a wonderful change. His body swelled and turned into a big black and white fish, with a yin-yang pattern on its head and a tail like elegant black and white silk. At this time, Han Fei had two completely different thoughts, one was tranquil, and the other was tyrannical. Han Fei chose to control the tranquil thought without hesitation. Immediately, he sensed the changes in the surrounding world. In his mind, countless light spots appeared. This was the ability of fusion. With the two combined, Han Fei could have Little White's treasure hunting ability. This feeling was like a radar, which could distinguish between danger and safety in the surroundings and was extremely sensitive to spiritual energy and energy. Han Fei could clearly feel that there was a snake hole directly below him, about 3 meters underground. He could also perceive that there were many primitive spiritual beasts swimming past him. Since he could devour other people's spiritual beasts, Han Fei naturally wouldn't think about these primitive spiritual beasts. In Han Fei's perception, there seemed to be a threatening creature about a few hundred kilometers away. Found it. Han Fei swam towards that place without hesitation. The creatures that could threaten him in this soul ocean were definitely not primitive spiritual beasts. There were only two kinds of creatures that could threaten him. One was the unknown terror born after he ate too many primitive spiritual beasts. The other was other people's spiritual beasts. Only when they had combat awareness could they be a threat. Yi Yun was a law enforcer. At this moment, his strength had reached the level of an advanced law enforcer and he was determined to solve the mystery of the Sky Meditation Garden. He had once tried to enter this boundless tower from the top. He had also tried to speed up inside the tower. He had also tried to visualize layer by layer in an attempt to discover the strange phenomenon. But no matter what Yi Yun did, he never really climbed up the endless tower. Even if he entered from the gap on the top floor and went directly into the tower, he would directly appear on the first floor again. Then, he began an endless loop of climbing the tower. In the end, he couldn't see the bottom or the top. However, after so many years, he had gained something. Just recently, he had seen a white shadow in the tower, but it had only been a flash. He knew that he had encountered a mysterious thing. So, during this period of time, he had been wandering in the tower. Suddenly, Yi Yun felt a sharp pain in his soul. It felt as if something was about to come out. Yi Yun was overjoyed. Did I encounter a mysterious thing? Am I going to enter the soul forbidden space? But before Yi Yun could be happy for too long, he suddenly felt that his spiritual beast wanted to come out. Immediately, Yi Yun's glabella shone, but nothing appeared. Huh? What's going on? Yi Yun focused, took a deep breath, and tried again. His glabella flashed again, and a half-meter-long lobster appeared in front of him. How is this possible? How did my golden radiance lobster become a newborn? Not long after Yi Yun sighed. Many people found the problem. With bursts of pain, his spiritual beast returned to its original state. Who would be able to withstand such a blow? For a time, people stood under the endless tower. When these people took a closer look, they realized that most of them were from aristocratic families. Because when Han Fei chose the targets to devour, he would choose those surnamed Zhang, Chu, Sun, and so on. Every family he knew, he would eat as much as he could. The group of people looked at each other. Huh? Yang Liuzi, don't tell me you're also a spiritual beast and have become a newborn? Yang Liuzi said in surprise, Li Kashui, has your spiritual beast also become a newborn? Someone said with an ugly look, something's wrong. There may be something wrong with the Sky Meditation Garden. Someone cursed, son of a bitch, what should we do? It wasn't easy to raise my spiritual beast, but it suddenly fell back. What should I do? Yi Yun said with a black face, let's go back first. There must be a reason for this. In the Soul Ocean, Han Fei was having a good time. Little Black and Little White had leveled up 3 times in a row and reached level 55. And the so-called horror didn't appear. Han Fei couldn't help but think, I finally found a way. But why are there so few people from the aristocratic families here? Do the others want to eat? Han Fei thought, if I eat all the aristocratic families, I may be suspected. However, they have no evidence. What can they do to me? If I go to the ideal palace, I'll inevitably have a big fight. If I don't do it now, when will I? Han Fei continued to search around, ate more than a dozen spiritual beasts of the children of the aristocratic families, and sighed. Unfortunately, the others were too weak and had no effect on them. So, after thinking about it, he decided to do it this time. In the Sky Meditation Garden, there were not many strong masters. Next time he wanted to make a breakthrough, he would go directly to the ideal palace. When he reached the ideal palace, he could eat as much as he wanted. With this in mind, Han Fei went to find primitive spiritual beasts again. It wasn't until Little Black and Little White reached level 57 that they were scared out of the Soul Ocean. Chapter 1037. Han Fei had just come out of the Soul Sea and thought the nothingness was still nothingness. But who would have thought? At this moment, in the nothingness, a figure appeared. Fuck! Han Fei exclaimed subconsciously. However, what puzzled Han Fei was that this figure looked a bit like the one he saw in the starry sky of the sea-quelling painting. Han Fei couldn't help but ask carefully, "Senior, is that you?" The figure froze for a moment. "Do you know me?" Han Fei was overjoyed. "Senior, it's me. I've met you in the sea-quelling painting." The figure was silent for a moment. "Is the sea-quelling painting in your hands?" Han Fei was stunned. Doesn't this person know? Han Fei narrowed his eyes subconsciously. I shouldn't have mentioned the sea-quelling painting just now. But then, with a swish, the figure appeared in front of Han Fei, startling him. Han Fei smiled awkwardly. "Senior, what? What do you want?" The figure seemed to be looking at Han Fei up and down. After a long time, he said, "Did you take half a drop of the origin water?" Han Fei swallowed and nodded. "Does this person also know about the source water?" The figure said lightly, "This is just a trace of my soul mark. There is no memory between the marks. Although you have taken the origin water, you are too weak now and still need to cultivate. Don't break into the immortal palace, or you will die." Han Fei secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It's still the same person, but it's just a trace of soul mark and the memory is not connected. Han Fei nodded repeatedly. "I won't break in. I will never go to the immortal palace before I become an explorer." The figure grunted and said, "Have you seen Yin? Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Could it be? Han Fei nodded and sighed. "Yes, I have. Yin has been waiting for her parents to come back. By now, maybe they have." The figure seemed to know what Han Fei was going to say, but the figure said, Yin is not dead." Huh? Han Fei's eyes widened. "How is that possible? I only saw Yin after my soul power reached a certain level." The figure said, "What was left in the Sky Meditation Garden was Yin's ghost." Han Fei's lips twitched. "You're already a ghost. Why are you still alive?" The figure continued, "Souls are divided into Yin and Yang. There are Yin souls and Yang souls. Yin and Yang embraced as one. Therefore, what Yin left behind in the Sky Meditation Garden was only a Yin spirit body." Han Fei frowned. Is there such a saying? He couldn't help but ask, "What about the Sun Soul?" The figure said, "In the glazed sky, it can also be called the sixth immortal palace. Yin's Yang soul was sent to the glass sky along with his physical body." Han Fei couldn't help but say, "The glass sky? Where is it?" The figure said leisurely, "Since you've come here, I can only leave this matter to you. I originally thought that it would be. Forget it. Remember, when you obtain the other half drop of origin water and become a king in the future, find a way to go to the glazed sky and bring Yin back. Remember, you have to become a king before you can fuse Yin's two souls. If I haven't become a king, I definitely can't do it." The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. "Why is there another thing on me? Besides, this matter doesn't seem to be easy to handle. Yin's two souls can only be fused after he becomes a king. Could it be that there was some sort of secret hidden within?" Han Fei asked, "Senior, what will happen if there is only a Yang soul left?" The figure said, "His aptitude is mediocre and he's a little stupid." Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. It's good that he's not dead. Otherwise, would be really pitiful. Han Fei immediately smiled and said, Senior, if there is a chance, I will definitely go and bring back. However, the figure said very seriously, it's not that there is a chance, but that must be brought back. Is your sister. If you don't bring her back, who will? Han Fei curled his lips and said, I know, calls me brother. Oh. No, what did you say? Han Fei suddenly realized that this figure's tone was not right. It was an absolute tone. Han Fei immediately smiled awkwardly. Senior, don't joke with me. The timing doesn't match. Has obviously been in the Sky Meditation Garden for more than 1 or 2 years. That may have happened countless years ago. How can she be my sister? The figure was silent for a while and said, So, I didn't tell you about the other mark, did I? Han Fei suddenly had a bad feeling. Tell me what? The figure sighed leisurely. I know why she didn't tell you. Forget it, but since you are here instead of your father, it means that your father can't come for some reason. I might as well make it clear to you right here. For some reason, Han Fei felt his heart suddenly beat faster. The figure said, First of all, I am not a senior, I am your mother, Han Fei immediately took a step back, his head humming. Are you kidding me? Han Fei opened his mouth, and after a long time, he swallowed and said, The timing is not right. Of course, the timing was not right. It was more than wrong. Who knew how many tens of thousands of years had passed? It was like listening to a book from the heavens. The figure said, This matter is very complicated. Have you had an extremely poor spiritual heritage since you were a child? Han Fei nodded. The figure sighed. Logically speaking, you couldn't have come this far, nor could you have gotten the sea-quelling painting. So, it must have taken your father a lot of effort to reverse the situation. Han Fei thought to himself, I am actually a pirated copy. But I can't say that out loud. Han Fei swallowed and asked, Then, the timing, the figure suddenly asked, What do you think the concept of time is? Han Fei was stunned for a long time and shook his head. I don't know. The figure chuckled. There are some things that you may not understand. For example, the river of time can actually be sealed. It's equivalent to stealing time from the hands of the supreme experts and connecting the past and the present. But such a heaven-defying act must be punished by the heavens. You and for some special reasons, had to cut off your spiritual heritage when you were young. I can't tell you what happened next. The eye of the heavenly path should have arrived. The more secrets you are involved in, the more the eye of the heavenly path will focus on you. Ha! Han Fei was stunned. Suddenly, his eyes widened. I've seen that eye. The figure was taken aback. Were you attacked by it? Han Fei shook his head. No. The figure relaxed slightly. That's good. You don't know much, and your spiritual heritage has been completely cut off, so the eye of the heavenly path can't see more from you. So, you will be fine for the time being. Han Fei hurriedly asked, What is the eye of the heavenly path? The figure shook his head. You'd better not know anything about it now. You can just treat it as a decoration. When you go out this time, I will destroy the forbidden soul space. With the power here, I will strengthen the Sky Meditation Garden. In this way, no one will find again. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, what about those who came to the forbidden soul space before? Do they all know The figure said, because the Sky Meditation Garden has existed for too long, the seal is weakening. Some experts with particularly strong soul power will occasionally stray into the forbidden soul space. However, they can't unlock the secret method, so no one really gains power from the forbidden soul space. Speaking of the soul sea, Han Fei immediately asked, What is the soul sea? What is your purpose of staying here? The figure said lightly, As I said before, I didn't expect you to come. I thought your father would come. If he saw the secret method pattern just now, he would know what I meant. This is between me and him. But you, how did you put together the Soul Sea's secret method? Han Fei said, there are records of the Soul Sea's secret method in the 72-floor soul realm. The figure said, find a chance to destroy it. The Soul Sea is extremely secretive. Did you eat a lot of primitive spiritual beasts in it? Han Fei nodded quickly. Wasn't it? How could he not eat them when he was upgrading crazily? The figure shook his head and said, don't eat them in the future. Han Fei asked in surprise, why? The figure said, the Soul Sea has its own rules. Every time you eat a primitive spiritual beast, their remnant souls will gather. In the end, you may attract the attention of some people. You are too weak now, so you can't let anyone notice you. Whether it's the eye of the heavenly path or something else. Suddenly, the figure flickered. Han Fei hurriedly asked, what's wrong with you? The figure said, the mark is blurring. At the beginning, this mark traveled through the river of time and consumed too much power. In a while, I will dissipate. The figure continued, remember, before you are strong enough, don't pry into the secrets of the Soul Sea, and try to avoid contact with the eye of the heavenly path. Primitive spiritual beasts are better not to eat them. It's not good. Han Fei asked, what if I eat other people's spiritual beasts? The figure spoke faster, it doesn't matter. As long as the spiritual beasts don't die, don't swallow too many primitive spiritual beasts. Han Fei thought to himself, thank you for meeting this. Mom. I just took the opportunity to swallow primitive spiritual beasts and let the horrors stimulate me out of the Soul Sea. Han Fei asked, what's your name? The figure seemed to grin and wanted to say something, but finally shut up. I can't say my name. Otherwise, it will be detected. Han Fei didn't know what to say for a while. After all, he had never seen her since he was a child. What he could see now was just a mark, like a shadow. He wanted to ask her why she and old Han ended up like this, right? However, this didn't seem to be something that could be explained clearly in a short time. The figure was silent for a moment before he said, you, call me. Ah. The figure said, if it weren't for the three of you, would I have become like this? Call me. Han Fei thought to himself, old Han and Yin, or might also be included in the three of us, right? Han Fei couldn't help scratching his head. What could he do? After all, his mother was also a super strong master. It didn't seem shameful to be the master of the divine palace. So after a while, he called out, Mom. He seemed to feel that his mother was a little happy, but he couldn't see it at all in the state of the shadow. Han Fei's mother said, remember, find Yin, and protect your sister. Don't explore the secrets, don't look for me, let your father live well.